Okay. Tēnā tātou katoa. No Papamoa ahau, ko Fitness te whānau, ko Sam toko ingoa. Nā reira, tēnā tātou katoa. Kia ora and welcome. I am Sam Fitness, the MC for today's Kōrero for Change, a webinar series brought to you by Access Matters Aotearoa Trust. First of all, I'd like to say a big thank you to our funders who make this series possible: Spectrum Foundation, Foundation North, J.R. Mackenzie Trust, and Whaikaha, the Ministry of Disabled People. We'd also like to recognise our friends at People First New Zealand for their valuable support in creating our Easy Read program. Today's focus is on tourism. We'll be exploring the role of tourism industry in building access and equity for disabled people. We've invited thought leaders, academics, experts, policymakers, deaf, neurodivergent, disabled people, tangata whaikaha Māori, and whānau haua to join us in having some courageous conversations about ableism in the tourism industry and what needs to change. Before we get started today, I'd announce a few quick housekeeping notes. After each panel, you'll have a chance to ask questions. Just use the Q&A option at the bottom of your screen to type them in. If you need to ask your question by speaking or signing, please use the raise hand function, and our team will enable your audio and video. Captions are available in two ways. Click on the captions button at the bottom of your Zoom screen, or use the live transcript link we've just dropped in the chat. Lastly, this webinar is being recorded and will be made publicly available on Access Matters website. And by staying with us, you're giving your consent to be recorded. I would now like to welcome us in with a karakia to create the space for opportunities for learning and discussion. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga. Kia mā kinakina ki uta, kia mā tarata ki tai. E hi ake ane a te kura, he teo, he huka, he hauhu, ti hei mauri ora. So firstly, I'd like to welcome our first speaker, Kimberly Graham, who is an accessible travel writer and creator of Grab Your Wheels, Let's Travel. Kim is also the Access Matters project manager for Kōrero for Change. So I'd like to hand that over to her now.
Oops. Kia ora, everybody. So what ableism looks like in tourism in Aotearoa, New Zealand. So kia ora koutou. When we talk about tourism in Aotearoa, we often use words like welcoming, inclusive, and world class. But when you travel with someone who uses a wheelchair, like my son Finlay, you'll quickly learn that not every door marked accessible truly is. Ableism in tourism isn't about always loud or deliberate. It's quiet. It hides in the details, in design choices, in booking systems, and in the assumptions people make about who tourism is really for. On my website, Grab Your Wheels, Let's Travel, I share our journeys as a family that rolls rather than walks. We've driven the length of the country, hoisting, lifting, adapting, and often improvising along the way. And through those travels, I've seen what ableism looks like in New Zealand tourism. First, it's what I call the access illusion. You jump online to book accommodation and you see that magic word accessible. But what does that actually mean? Does it have step-free entry, a roll-in shower, space for a power chair to turn? Too often, accessible just means someone ticked a box. I've arrived at motels with ramps too steep, so steep they could double up as a ski jump, or accessible bathrooms where you can't even close the door once the wheelchair's inside. That's not accessibility, that's false advertising with good intentions. Second, ableism shows up in missing links. Tourism isn't just about the destination, it's about getting there. You might find an attraction that says it's accessible, but the car park has no curb cuts, or the path is too narrow, or there's a stile or a gate that blocks a wheelchair. I once tried a scenic walk that promised to be wheelchair friendly, and it was for about 300 meters. Then the gravel started, the gradient kicked up, and that was it. We sat there, staring at the rest of the track we couldn't explore. That's what ableism looks like, design that assumes we don't want to go the whole way. Third, it's in the way the industry markets itself. Tourism ads show families laughing on beaches, couples on bikes, people hiking mountains, but rarely anyone with a mobility aid. It sends a subtle message, this isn't for you. And yet the accessible tourism market isn't small, it's huge. Families like ours, travelers with aging parents, people recovering from injuries, when accessibility is part of the story, everyone wins. Fourth, ableism is built into the system. We still treat accessibility as something optional, nice to have, if there's leftover funding. I recently helped review 50 kilometers of cycleway around Tamaki Makaurau. Some were brilliant, wide, smooth, and safe for adaptive bikes. Others ended abruptly at stairs or bollards too narrow for a hand cycle. It's like no one imagined a disabled person might want to ride too. That's what happens when accessibility isn't designed in from the start. We build barriers instead of freedom. And finally, ableism shows up in attitudes. It's when staff whisper, oh, poor thing, instead of asking, how can I help? It's when business owners say, we'd love to be accessible, but it's too expensive. The truth is, accessibility isn't a cost. It's an investment in inclusion. What we need is partnership, tourism that's co-designed with disabled people in whānau, not for them, and us what works. Bring us into the planning. You'll get better design, happier guests, and genuine Manakatanga hospitality that welcomes everyone. So, what does ableism in tourism look like? It looks like good intentions without lived experience input. It looks like policy gaps dressed up as progress. And it looks like missed opportunities for inclusion, for connection, and for belonging. But the good news is it's fixable. Every ramp redesigned, every website that shows real access details, every marketing image that includes a wheelchair, a white cane, a walker, these are steps towards a tourism that truly represents who we are as a country. Because accessibility isn't about compliance, it's about belonging. And belonging, that's what tourism is really about. Ngā mihi nui.
Thanks, Kim, for your insights there on ableism and tourism. Our next speaker is Melissa James, and Melissa is a leading advocate for accessible travel and the founder of Inclusive Tourism Australia. Melissa will be talking on how having robust accessibility legislation can benefit the whole tourism sector. She'll also be sharing a quick infographic slide that she'll describe during her talk.
Thank you, Sam. Good morning, everyone. Kim, can you put that slide up for me?
It hasn't come through. Have you got it that you can share your screen?
Yes. Might be a little bit messy though, just bear with me. You know what? Let's just run without it. Sorry about that. Okay, so in Australia, we have legislation that actually ensures that we have inclusion built in. We have accessibility built into buildings. And there's a whole tree that goes on it. And the slide that I was going to show you had that picture of the tree, but let me just go through it and explain it. So at the very top, of course, we put the DDA, which is the Disability Discrimination Act of Australia, which was signed in 1992. So that becomes the foundation law which prohibits discrimination against people with disabilities and ensures equal and dignified access for all. Underneath that, we have the Disability Standards to Premises from 2010, and that covers off education standards, public transport standards, and it clarifies exactly what access means in buildings. So it gives a really good definition of how people should be able to get access to all buildings. From there, we have the National Construction Code, and that is designed to ensure that buildings are constructed to meet the above obligations. Underneath that, we have the Building Code of Australia, and that actually makes up the entire Volume 1 of the National Construction Code, and that specifies the construction requirements for access. And underneath that are all the Australian standards. It's the AS 1428 standards. So that actually provides the technical specs to actually make sure that it's done right. So things like doorways must be 850 millimetres, pathways, the width of pathways, etc., gradients of ramps, contrasting, tactile ground surface indicators. So all of that technical stuff, that's contained within the Australian standards. So you can, as you can hear, that this is a really complex set of structures that ensure that for all new buildings and for any buildings that are going under a renovation or a change in the way that they are used, that need to apply for a DA, which is a development application, they must comply to the Australian standards. So that ensures that it's all built in. But what they actually do is just provide a base. So they are the baseline of what you must do. I'm a qualified access consultant here in Australia, and I work with a lot of tourism businesses. And that what I like to try and do with them is to get them to go beyond compliance. So if your doorway needs to be 850 mil, let's make it 900 or 920, because then you're going to be actually creating that space for future wheelchair users, for future, who knows what's going to happen. So I'm always pushing people to go beyond compliance. But the importance of the legislation is that it does guarantee that there will be that base level. So it's a baseline. If you create a building that doesn't comply with that, well, you're in trouble, and pretty much it won't get certified. It won't be ticked off. The other thing that's happening here in Australia now gradually is that some of the local councils are specifying that any plans that are going before them for approval must also be signed off by an actual access consultant. So that just then applies that one more level of overview to ensure that everything is being done correctly and to the best that it can be done for access. So that's the sort of structure that we have here in Australia. It doesn't fix the older buildings, but it certainly ensures that new buildings and changes that we are making to buildings will comply and will be accessible. And that's it from me.
Thanks, Melissa. That was really interesting hearing how it works in Australia, and hopefully some of those things you can do over there can sort of be implemented in a New Zealand context as well. Now we've got our first panel. It's called The Deciders. This kōrero will be moderated by Taina Boyd, who is an Access Advisor for Tauranga City Council. So we welcome Taina.
Kia ora everyone, nau mai hara mai ki te best panel of the day. Today we've got Lisa Bond, who is our Destination Manager for Destination Kaikoura with 30 years experience. She knows all about tourism. We've got Suresh Junjunwala, CEO for Sedima Hotels, who last year in our 2025 New Year's Honours received an award. So, yep, absolutely up there on a pedestal for me. We also have Bruce Bassett, who is our Chief Advisor for Tourism Industry Aotearoa. So, welcome everyone. We'll start with our first question. We'll all have 5 minutes to answer. Our question is, what is the role of tourism in the process of access and belonging for people with disabilities? And Lisa, if it's okay with you, we'll start with you.
Kia ora. Can everybody hear me? Nice. Good morning, Lisa Bond here. I think the tourism industry has a powerful role to play in promoting inclusion and belonging for people with disabilities and access needs. You see, at the heart of tourism, it is about connection. It's about connecting people to places, experiences, and one another. And true connection can only happen when everybody feels welcome, valued, and able to participate fully. This means moving beyond compliance to a mindset of manaakitanga in all that we do, that genuine care and hospitality for all. It's about designing experiences that are inclusive from the outset, such as accessible transport, accommodation, clear communication and information. I touch on what Kimberly said earlier, that sometimes it can say it's accessible and you arrive and it's actually not so. So it's living up to that standard. It's about staff who are trained and confident in supporting visitors with different needs and supporting storytelling, that reflects the richness for all people. So by ensuring accessibility, we don't just open the door for people with disabilities, we create environments that work better for everyone, whether that's families, older travellers, people with temporary injuries or language barriers. Inclusion to me strengthens our communities and enhances the visitor satisfaction, and it supports the economic and social sustainability of our industry. I think ultimately promoting belonging isn't just good business, it is actually the right thing to do. It reflects who we are as an industry, also as a country, and one that values dignity, respect, and connection for all who come here, whether that be my town, whether that be the town up the road, or whether it be that New Zealand as a whole. So, yeah, that's my short 5 minutes.
Lovely. Thank you, Lisa. How amazing was Melissa's kōrero around how they build accessibility in from the ground up, and
Yeah,
how much could we progress things if we adopted that? Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. Sudesh, moving over to you. What is the role of tourism in the process of access and belonging for people with disabilities?
Here, everyone. Sudesh here. I hope you can hear me. Can you hear me? Cool. Hey, thanks for inviting me on this panel. Because Surima Hotel and I myself are very passionate about accessibility and inclusivity in all aspects of life. And I agree with Lisa when she says that tourism is about experiences, connections, and about belonging. So, our role as industry leader is to shape how people experience Aotearoa. And hotels are one of the first interactions someone has when they land in Aotearoa. That means we are not just service providers, we are there to influence the experience they're going to have for the rest of their journey through New Zealand. Every design choice, every website layout, every staff interaction can either welcome someone or unintentionally shut them out. At Surima Hotels, we see it as our role to remove these barriers. Over a decade ago, we made accessibility part of our culture, not a compliance requirement. Today, we are proud to be New Zealand's first fully accessible hotel group with accessible rooms, step-free designs, hearing and visual adaptation, and staff trained to understand different needs. And we've learned that you can't design accessibility by sitting in a room, sitting around with an architect. So we have co-designed with people who live that experience. And in the past, we've partnered with B Lab and then followed that with accessibility tech to create spaces that work in real life, not just on paper. And we've taken those learnings and we apply to all new development spaces as we go forward. For example, architects love to design an entrance with steps and then a small ramp on the side. And we told them, no, we want a ramp, a gentle ramp going, the whole entrance is a ramp. So all the guests are moving up, to a step-free design, creating a step-free design. So a simple design change, but this makes for a more inclusive space. It benefits everyone, parents with prams, older guests, people recovering from injury, even people walking with huge luggage, big, heavy luggage. Rather than going up a ramp, they can just walk through this front entrance. We were the first ones to introduce Disability Sunflower Scheme, and this helps guests discreetly signal that they may need a bit more time and support. It's a small gesture, but made a big impact on how we serve and connect. But what surprised us was how many of our own staff started wearing the sunflower lanyards, as they were confident in our culture that they would be treated with dignity and respect. And the role of tourism goes beyond ramps and signage. It's about mindset and empathy. Our teams are trained to see accessibility as part of Manaaki Tanga, our duty of care and hospitality. They go through disability confidence training so they can provide empathetic and respectful service, whether that's welcoming a guest with autism who needs a quiet space or assisting someone with mobility aids without making them feel like a burden. We found one of the ways to improve this confidence in our team is by employing people with disability into our hotels. When you have a team member with disability working alongside you, your confidence in interacting with disability improves, and this leads to a more inclusive environment. We have employees in hotels who have taken sign language courses to be able to better interact with their peers. What a great outcome. When we get that right, inclusion becomes second nature, not an afterthought. As an industry, we need to make accessibility the norm, not the exception. From passport to attraction, online platforms and marketing. At Surima, we are extending this thinking into digital accessibility, ensuring our websites and booking systems are inclusive use. And finally, tourism has the power to unite, inspire, and uplift communities, but it also has the responsibility to include. We have never looked at inclusivity through the ROI lens and have designed for more than what is legislated. The saying of Hey Tangata has never been more applicable than in tourism. If we can get it right, we are not just promoting tourism, we are promoting the best of Aotearoa. Thank you.
Thank you so much for all the work that you do in pushing with all of your goals that you have with sustainability and accessibility. I was lucky enough to stay at one of your hotels earlier this year with the New Zealand Disability Employment Conference, and not only the accessible environment, but the amazing customer service elevated me to be able as my able-bodied colleagues that were there with me. So from us, thank you so much for all the work you do. Moving over to Bruce Bassett, our Chief Advisor in Tourism Industry Aotearoa. He loves long, windy rolls around Wellington and a good game of cards. Hey, Bruce.
Kia ora. Thank you for the introduction. A really interesting discussion today, and the ask of us as a panel about our experiences. Firstly, I'm in a wheelchair, but I'm a tourism industry professional. So I'm going to be speaking from a tourism perspective mostly, but with my lived experience sort of informing everything that I think about in this sort of area. Firstly, and Kimberly set it out really well, how much friction there is in the taking a trip when you have to take into account a whole lot of other factors about accessibility and information and confidence about booking systems and the like. It just makes it a lot harder and requires more planning. And despite all that, you can get to a set of stairs that just you can't negotiate. So the friction thing is really important. It just creates more uncertainty, more doubt, more hurdles to go over to get into that into that experience. Now, in tourism, we look pretty carefully at we call it the visitor experience. So that's the whole of what a person experiences when they're on a trip or travel. And on a given day, you've been doing transportation, you're getting your lunch, your dinner, you're doing an activity, you're flying, you're staying in accommodation, and you're being passed through the hands of multiple providers. And so to be accessible, each and every one of those providers have to be doing their thing. If you've got one that's not doing well, it impacts the overall visitor experience, and that's detrimental to all of those people who are doing the right thing. So from a tourism perspective, this is a system issue around how the tourism system works. So sort of my sort of experience is traveling around is that there are lots and lots of well-meaning providers and people are really wanting to do the right thing. There is a lack of transparent and trusted information and booking tools that people can use. So it gets very, very, very fuzzy about what you're actually stepping into. And then there's the lack of the really solid requirements around what is actually provided. What's the industry actually required to provide? And that cuts right across society. So we have good intentions but no requirements. So what do we do in this space? So thinking about this from a tourism industry perspective, another area where we've got where we need to be driving system-wide change is around our sustainability. And this is an area where the tourism industry, Aotearoa, we looked at and said, well, what can we do in this space? And what's very apparent is that it's a bottom-up approach is needed. We need every business, every operator to be doing their thing to make a difference at the whole. You can't really do it top-down, although top-down is wonderful, and it's as we heard from Melissa this morning, when the framework is really tight, that makes it way easier. So with our tourism sustainability commitment, we basically the key thing is when we talk to people, they didn't really know what the right thing to do was. With the sustainability work, we established a framework. We established some really simple actions that people would get going with, measuring carbon, getting involved in, working in ecological restoration or something, be employer of choice. And there's a whole range of things in there that are quite practical things that businesses can get right onto. They don't have to be expert right straight away. It's the journey, but getting started is really the key thing. So from that work and thinking about accessibility, what really strikes me is the value of a framework, the articulation of the simple steps that people can take to get going and before they move on to the more complex ones. Somebody to champion this and to take it out and talk to people and actually provide the human touch to the framework and the actions, and then take a long-term view, have a plan that's enduring. So it seems to me that accessibility is missing some of these elements, and I'm wondering whether that is a set of ideas that we can take forward in this discussion, and as we think about how we do things in New Zealand, as we think about legislation, as we think about activating industry to step on board. And again, it's to Melissa's point about going beyond compliance. It's actually about sort of setting something that we as an industry can be really proud of, and that's something we can do really, really well. So I'll leave it there, and happy to take any questions as we.
Bruce, absolutely love your kōrero around framework and why it's so important. Do you think part of that, having the framework there and accessible for the tourism industry, is part of making it easy for everyone to be accessible as a toolkit there for people to reach to for regulations, for guidelines, for best practice? Is that kind of what you mean around having that framework set?
Well, I think the framework would say, well, what are the legal requirements? What are we actually working with in our context in Aotearoa, New Zealand? So, and then sort of relaying that into our industry. So what does it mean for our industry? And it'll mean different things for all industries. So how do we sort of take those requirements and then we sort of make it logical and simple, and so people really get it conceptually what it is and what's being asked.
Yes.
Then we say, well, what are the steps you can take, and and make it it's I think people really get it. It's a value add for their business and not a cost. It's not a drag. It's actually doing the right thing. So,
Yeah.
you know, in the sustainability work, I really do think that, you know, that sort of principle has been sort of advanced. Now, it's quite different. Sustainability and accessibility are, you know, they're quite different, but you know, we've just seeing there may be some sort of model there, some framework for thinking that can really help us move this along.
So, Bruce, that leads us into our first question, which is for you. For Bruce, shouldn't we be encouraging government to make it mandatory as they do in Australia and worldwide?
I was very impressed with the framework, you know, the system that Melissa pointed out. To tell the truth, I don't know what the New Zealand equivalence is. I'm sure there's a bunch of things written into various bits of legislation that have set some requirements, but I don't know what those are, and I don't know whether anyone's pulled them all together to figure out what they mean in total. So that, you know, that's an exercise, and from that you would think, well, what do we need? What gaps are there that we need to fill through legislation? And I think the power of the legislation and setting the overall requirements and then cascading that through the different codes and the like, building codes, you know, just seems, you know, very sensible to me. And yeah, so I'd be very interested to know within the various bits of legislation we have in New Zealand, what actually the culminate, what it actually adds up to.
I think the current review that the building code, and particularly NZS 4121, is under review with Whaikaha is a great start. So that's a good start for us. I can't see many questions coming through, but there is a question I'm burning to ask all of you. We clearly all have a huge passion for accessibility and inclusivity, and I would love to know from you as individuals, where did that spark start? Was there a particular experience or moment where you decided, this is my passion, this is where I'm going to make a change? Lisa, if I can throw that one to you, please.
Yeah. I have a sister who is in a wheelchair, and I know all too well the trials that can come with taking her places, etc., and making those moments enjoyable in those holidays. So that's where my passion stems from. That came through having cancer and through that losing a leg. And so now she's in a wheelchair. And so that's where my passion stems in it, in my role as a destination manager. And also I was, up until last week, with this weekend just been, I was a district councillor. So I was on council as well. Didn't put my hand up this time. I would like to hope that sorry?
3 terms was enough?
3 terms was enough.
Job.
I would like to hope that I've been able to be a good advocate in that space and to help enable change, etc. So I've worked with the likes of Jezza from making tracks, running workshops here for our operators and our accommodation providers. I helped with, we've just built a link pathway in Kaikoura from the town centre to the seal colony. And in that, we tried to make it as accessible as possible with all of those right ramps, no steps, can get through the bollards, all of those kind of things, so that it's for everybody to be able to enjoy the beauty of travelling along the Esplanade. Yes. So that's where my passion stemmed from, looking through the lens of my sister, trying to make sure that every time we're out and about, it's an enjoyable experience for her, her grandchildren, and family around her, kind of thing.
Oh, what a fantastic place for your passion to grow from. Thank you for sharing that, Lisa. Sudesh and Bruce, I really want to ask you the same question, but I feel like we owe it to our attendees to answer some of their questions first. So we have a question here. We run a marketing agency specialising in social media. Are there any funds we can access to assist with campaigns that could bring awareness to accessibility? I'm not sure if this is anyone's specialty, but does anyone have any awareness around an answer for that?
There was an earlier question about some other grants about accessibility and this one. And from what I know, there's nothing that's available from the government.
Yeah, I'm not aware of anything either that would be right.
No, I'm not either, sorry. And yeah, the other one was, is there a grant that tourist-orientated companies can apply for retrospective design for inclusion? I'm not sure we have the answers in this panel, but I can definitely do some research and address those afterwards to send some answers through. There was one, let me just scroll up here because I think this is a really good one. It's more of an experience from one of our attendees. So they have a daughter with autism, and they have been asked to leave accommodations before due to the noise. She can be loud. We can all be loud. But when you have people who aren't trained in these situations and they don't know how to deal with it, it can prove a really uncomfortable situation for those families. So as a family who may be visiting one of your hotels, Sudesh, if they have a child with autism and they might be loud, what would your suggestions be to help create an environment that will be enjoyable for their family and for the duration of their stay?
I think our team are trained to understand, what's required, and be it quiet space, be it what kind of if the daughter is making loud noises, to understand. And then it's not for our team, it's for other guests who complain, to explain to them, hey, this is what our culture is and this is acceptable.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it comes with the staff training. It can't, and unfortunately, there'll be plenty of hotels who'll call up and complain saying, hey, can you do something about that noise? But it's that's because they're not properly trained.
Thank you. All right, we have another question.
Yeah.
Oh,
maybe
sorry, Bruce. Yes.
I could just check in a comment here. I think there's a lot in informing businesses of what the requirements of them are, educating them, because they don't know what they don't know, I guess. And there doesn't appear to be any sort of ability. There's no way of sort of no pan industry information around how to deal with different situations. So I think again that the bottom up approach requires the bottom up to be informed and knowing how to do the right things. So I think that's something that's speaks to me that there's work to do on that information and informing operators what to do.
Yeah, for sure. Would you say that the Haupai Access Card and the Sunflower Lanyard will be a good place for businesses to start that journey?
Yeah, I don't know exactly, but I'd be interested to know how far that goes.
Yeah, it's pretty fantastic when you get the two of them in tandem, how holistically they look after our neurodivergent families. All right, we've got a couple more questions. Morena Tato, I live in Mount Maunganui. How can I and others in our communities work better, stronger with our city council members to improve access to our pools, beach, walkway around the mount? As Melissa says, the council says accessible, but they are not. I feel like this one might be for me, but let's put it to the panel. Any ideas out there, team?
I've been around the mountain in a wheelchair, and it was
dicey.
Dicey.
Yeah, I agree. There has been some work done. Oh, it might be around 8 months ago now to even out some of the gradients, and it's been small step by small step because obviously you have competing priorities in one space. That's a hugely valuable cultural taonga as well. So it's not exactly something we can just pour concrete on and flatten. Unfortunately, there are many considerations when we're looking at our natural taonga like that. But I wasn't part of that project, I'm afraid, but I do know that there were many passionate people involved, and they did minimize the crossfall and the gradients as much as they could without impacting on nature too much in that area.
I can just speak from a district councillor point of view. We recently have just gone through a whole renewal of our footpaths around our community, And what we did is we actually invited community members to be a part of the planning on how that would look and what would happen, how we would go about it, etc. Because we can just go and make gravel footpaths, but that's not ideal. Yeah, that's the cheaper option. But so we had a community working group where we had different people from different sectors sit on that panel and help make decisions. And that worked really, really well. We ended up with great results. And yes, there is we're on pretty some interesting land here as well. So we have to be careful about going deep and all of that kind of stuff. But we had Runanga come on. We had all of those kind of people sitting on the panel so that we could make the best decision for everybody. That comes at a little bit of a greater cost, but it's a win for everybody to be able to have good access along those footpaths. So it's a 3-year renewal program. We're a year in and we're getting some great results.
Co-design with the community we're building for is where the big wins lie, right? Good job. So as I use a manual wheelchair, is there an industry standard for height of accommodations beds? As I've had beds that have been 600 millimeters and above, I couldn't get in and out of bed. Sudesh, I think you're probably best placed to answer this one.
Unfortunately, I don't have an answer for that, but I will look into it. There's the other side to it is we have to have a certain minimum height because when the housekeepers come in to make the beds, we don't want them bending too much. So, but this is something I'll definitely need to look into.
Something I've actually found with that is when I'm traveling with a hoist, it's being able to get the hoist legs under the bed. All right, let's see if we have any more questions. Otherwise, I'm getting into that passion question again. All right, Bruce, where's your passion come from?
That's actually a tricky question to answer. A decade ago, I had an accident and became a wheelchair user, and since then it's been getting life back as normal as possible. So my passion is around that, I think, and that means that for me that means overcoming hurdles, just making things as normal as possible, and again, relating that to the tourism industry, and the work I do, and appreciating how many people can be benefited from a tourism system that is smoother for them, has got less in it.
Yeah.
And that's certainly an objective New Zealand tourism, certainly needs to have and needs to be part of its thinking always.
Yeah. So did your passion grow after the injury?
Again, I was thinking, I've got family members who have got, mobility limitations, and that was been a long time earlier than that. So it was always in my frame of thinking, but not, I'd say it's not top of mind, which I think is, part of that ableism thing is that, able people don't necessarily see what's in front of them until they're there.
For sure.
And that's why it was a sort of a tricky question to answer.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you.
I think you hit on a really important point there, though. If we say in Tauranga we have 28% of our population identifying as having some form of disability, if we as council continue building as we are with the current standards with NZS 4121, we can only serve the 72% of our able population. But if we start building to best practice, universal design, we can service 100% of our community. Good points. We've got another question here. The role of Airbnb and other house rental sites is an important part of the tourism industry. As a wheelchair user, I am frustrated by the lack of clarity on accessibility when booking. Has work been done to improve the consistency of how this sector will tackle accessibility? Oh, I don't know who to throw this one to. Any hands up?
I can answer that.
Awesome.
Yeah, so Airbnb and other house rental, they don't have to comply to anything. No health and safety, no accessibility needs, and it's wild west out there. Even I myself have booked Airbnb, and then suddenly I find that there are 5 steps to enter the house, and with heavy luggage, I'm the only one picking up. All those things as you age, you kind of need to look out for. But there's no clarity around those things. And because they are run from overseas, there's not much. I mean, I'm sure government can do something.
Yeah.
But it is, even, things like I said, health and safety also is not properly covered over.
Sounds like a really good question for one of our panelists later on, Scott Hirschberger, who has access maps, and will be talking to us about that later. So I think, Scott, if you can remember that question for later, that would be a great one for you to speak to, perhaps. Oh, I love this question. How can the government incentivise the industry? Lisa, 30 years in tourism, I know you've got a few ideas there.
Oh, that is a good question. I'm not sure if I have an answer that pops straight to mind, but I mean, even just acknowledging that there is a need to be aware that there is a diversity of travellers. It's not just, everybody's out there for adventure and able to do that kind of thing. There's got to be an acknowledgement, I think, that there is a variety of travellers, and seeing how we can best, make sure that the information out there is correct. I think of Tourism New Zealand, and a conversation I can even have with them is like, what can we do to better provide information for people with disabilities, etc. So yeah, good question.
Very good question.
Yeah.
Any ideas, Bruce and Satish?
Sorry, can I add to that? So, we are one of the few companies which actually develop hotels from ground up, and we find it very frustrating that any type of sustainability or accessibility initiatives that we want to put in, there's no grant for it, there's no incentive for it. So quite often it's all off our bat. It's nothing to do with accessibility, but like in terms of sustainability, we wanted to use heat pumps to heat our water, and it was going to cost us almost twice as much as using a gas boiler. And we went to ICA and we didn't get any subsidy for that. And then 3 years later, they came up with a subsidy saying, hey, if you want to remove it, you're supposed to rip out our perfectly good boilers and replace them with electric ones. So it's quite often horse chasing the cart rather than the other way around.
It's quite often one of the problems with being a front runner with anything revolutionary or innovative like this. It's not, the value of it isn't identified until further down the track, and you've been the guinea pig for a little while, haven't you? Yeah, really, really important spot to highlight. Bruce, did you have any thoughts on that?
I think there are a lot of things in tourism where there isn't the right sort of support for enabling the industry to, develop and improve its quality and become more sustainable and more accessible. So that's kind of a lacking part of our system, I think. And and I think that as we look to further growth in tourism, those sort of enabling factors certainly need to be looked at more carefully. But they're not there at the moment.
Yes, work to do.
Yeah.
All right, team, this is going to be a great question for one of our panelists later on, Jezza Williams on the Doer panel, but what do we lose financially and culturally when tourism is not inclusive? And this will be our last question. financially and culturally. I think culturally we create a culture of exclusion, of broken family holidays, of families being able to go on a holiday, but a wheelchair user in the family might opt to stay home because they don't want to be a barrier to participation for their family. That's a huge cultural impact that I feel with my family.
I
What do you
feel
see,
like,
Lisa?
if I go back to my introduction at the beginning about the mindset of manaakitanga, we're not fully embracing what that is if there's some people who can't enjoy a holiday to its best, like I feel like we're not living up to the full sense of the meaning of what manaakitanga is. And that's inclusivity for everybody. It's genuine care. It's hospitality for all, not just some.
Yeah.
And that's a word that can get thrown around so easily, but it's all encompassing, that word.
Yes. And I think financially, Jezza will have a lot to say on the accessible dollar. When we travel, we bring a whole team with us. We bring ourselves, our support workers, our family, our friends. If we're going to make the effort to travel, we bring the whole crew, when we can. So it's not just the dollar from us, it's the crew that we bring with us. Sudesh, do you have any ideas around the financial impact of not being inclusive?
We've never looked at it in terms of financial impact. It's just the right thing for us to do, and that's why we do it. I do get called from other hotel owners, what's the return on investment? And I can't answer that because it just makes me feel good, and that's why we do it.
Yeah. Doing it for the right reasons. So team, I think that is about us on time, right, Sam?
Yeah, no, that was awesome.
Thank you
Thanks.
so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Taina, and thanks, the deciders. That was awesome getting a few questions there from the floor, and I'm putting the big questions to those guys on the panel there. So cheers. You'll be able to do more of that in the next panel because we're welcoming the second panel, and that is the thinkers. And in that panel, I'm pleased to announce and introduce Hope Cotton, a deaf advocate and co-president of the Victoria University of Wellington Disabled Students Association. Hope is also Access Matters events and volunteer coordinator. So yeah, welcome for her. I'm pleased a friendly reminder to say your name before speaking, and this ensures that blind and low vision participants know who is speaking throughout the discussion.
Kia ora, I'm Hope. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm so excited to introduce this amazing panel of incredible people. I'm so excited to hear from them. Today with us, we have Dr. Brielle Gjovic, Senior Lecturer at the School of Hospitality and Tourism at Auckland University of Technology, AUT. We have Dr. Eliza Raymond, Lecturer in Tourism Management and Program Director of the Wellington School of Business and Government at Victoria University, and Dr. Susan Hoagie McKenzie, Associate Professor at the School of Business at the Department of Tourism at the University of Otago. Thank you all so much for coming to talk to us today. It's awesome to have you here. So we're going to start off with the big question. What do you think the role of tourism is in the process of access and belonging for people with disabilities? We'll start with Dr. Brielle, if you wouldn't mind starting and giving us your thoughts.
You hope. Kia ora, good morning. My name is Brielle, and it's such a pleasure to be here and contribute to this important conversation. I co-lead AUT's Tourism for All New Zealand research group, and for over a decade, we've partnered with other academics, the tourism industry, and the disability community to advance accessible tourism through research. We were asked to speak to the role of the industry in promoting inclusion for people with disabilities and access needs, and I'd like to respond from a research perspective. Drawing on international research, I'll speak to the case for accessible tourism development, where New Zealand falls short, and what is needed at the destination level to tap the potential opportunity. Globally, access and inclusion are essential to responsible, sustainable tourism. It's a human rights imperative, a social responsibility, and a major business driver. Accessible tourism is neither niche nor small. Globally, it is a $1 trillion opportunity, the fastest growing market, and it accounts for 25% of global tourism. Aging and disability are reshaping tourism demand. So by 2030, baby boomers will control over 50% of tourism spend, and by 2050, 1 in 8 international trips will be taken by seniors over 60. Many will have access needs and expect accessibility as standard, meaning that access visitors actually exist in every market. Destinations like Australia and England have recognised this, and they've linked accessibility to destination competitiveness. Destination management organisations have invested in trip planning resources for access visitors and support for businesses and regions. And this has very much been supported by strong policy foundations, political will, the collection of reliable data, and some dedicated accessibility programs. Recent research out of Australia shows that access visitors made up 22% of all travel and 17% of total tourism spend. This equated to 70.5 million trips and $29 billion. In New Zealand, the social and economic case for accessible tourism largely remain unrealised, despite our ageing domestic and major inbound markets. Our research shows that while many in the industry recognise its importance, understanding of its value, practical implementation, and the needs of access visitors remains limited. Some operators are leading change, offering adaptive experiences and an advanced customer care, and a few champions are opening dialogue, many of whom are here today. But an accessible business does not equate to an accessible destination. Collaboration is needed across the wider tourism system to truly deliver on an accessible visitor journey for all. A key identified barrier is the inconsistent and fragmented provision of accessibility information. Standardizing and integrating this information in a credible, centralized platform would greatly improve trip planning for our visitors. Research from overseas shows us that 50% of people with access needs would travel more if tourism offerings at each destination were perceived as accessible and inclusive. Here, there's also been very little effort to measure the size and the value of the access market, hindered by limited data and a systematic methodology to measure. This makes it difficult to build a business case and garner buy-in. Hopefully, the new disability variable in the International Visitor Survey will help with this, though. In our research, we've long argued for a meeting in the middle between businesses driving innovation and destination management organisations tasked with leadership and coordination. So following on from what Bruce said, bottom up, but also a top-down approach too. International evidence tells us that strategic leadership is vital to capture the potential market opportunity, but that apathy and a lack of accountability persist. Overall, research shows that from a destination perspective, New Zealand is not well placed to accommodate or promote an accessible visitor journey. We risk falling behind our competitors like Australia, even though we're more reliant on tourism as a major export earner. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to continuing this conversation.
Thank you so much, Dr. Brielle. That's fascinating to hear those numbers and that business case. That's very impressive. Moving on to Dr. Susan. Thank you for being here today. So excited to hear from you. Can you share with us a bit about what you think the tourism industry's role is in providing access and inclusion for disabled people?
Kia ora koutou. Thank you for having me. Yeah, I struggled a little bit with how to tackle this. There's so many dimensions, and it was lovely to speak a bit with my panel mates to see how that might work. And I think moving on from the destination level discussion, my background, both in my guiding career and in my academic research, focuses largely on adventure tourism contexts. So I thought I would share a little bit from our research and some of the implications for access in my brief time here. So at a broader level, a lot of the research that myself and colleagues have done in particularly the adventure tourism context, obviously that is an umbrella that encompasses many things in Aotearoa, New Zealand, and is really critical to our tourism industry. So I wanted to focus a little bit on sort of the operator and in particular in the nature-based outdoor adventure domain in terms of access. So what we found in our research is that there tends to be a popular narrative in popular culture and also in the research that engaging in adventure is about thrill seeking, it is about adrenaline seeking, and it is about taking high risks and having high levels of competence across the range of domains. What this sort of narrative drives is a more elitist approach to adventure and some, I would argue, more exclusionary perspectives on adventure and adventure tourism and who can participate, where and when. Because actually our research shows that there are many, many reasons beyond that people participate. There are many, many benefits beyond that people participate. And there are many, many more opportunities for people to engage in adventure and the outcomes of adventure that don't involve a lot of these prototypical or stereotypical high risk, more elitist adventure practices. So I guess what I wanted to talk a little bit about today was how we can, the importance first of reframing our understanding of adventure and adventure tourism in particular, so that it can address some of the things that Riel has been discussing and no doubt have been discussed earlier in the day, and opening that up. And will also be discussed by Jezza Williams, who's someone who I bring into classes and would have some good dialogue with on this. So essentially the critique that we have of this more risk and thrill-based model of adventure is that it sort of reinforces a lot of these Western, more masculine and very elitist adventure practices. And it can also undermine kind of a larger inclusion base and also cultural sensitivity, authentic engagement, and even sustainability. And so what I would encourage us to focus on more is this idea that how can we take all the wonderful things about adventure, the wonderful benefits, because they're not just about a cheap thrill. If you want that, you don't need to go climb up a mountain. You can do something much easier. And think about some of these more eudaimonic or kind of more meaningful benefits to the self beyond the immediate emotional experience. And so in order, if we shift our focus in adventure away from how can we, seek out higher risk levels or seek out something that's going to feel quite intense or about thrill seeking. And we really look more about all these other elements of adventure that we know are important, such as the social environment that we engage in, people learning new skills, challenging themselves, feeling this great immersion and appreciation with the natural environment, which can also sort of take us away from ourselves. I think this is one of the most sort of underlooked but most interesting elements of adventure, is that the focus is often so much on the activity that we forget to allow time and space and the importance in terms of outcomes of really being mindful and aware of the natural environments that we're in. So like some of our research would even give practices that operators could use to focus on that more in their tours. And those sorts of elements, when we sort of reframe adventure tourism away from just that very high risk or high competence activity and look at it more in a holistic sense of what it offers, and that includes the natural environment and the social environment and all these elements, I think that also opens up a lot more access points for what we consider to be adventure tourism. And in doing that, we can also shift and broaden who adventure invites in. And I talk about that in the tourism sense, but I also believe that that's really important in the recreational sense. For example, some of my colleagues and I have written about, sort of how adventure is maybe an underused mechanism for promoting health and well-being in larger populations because of some of these stereotypes and narratives. And the same would be true in adventure tourism. So I guess my main critique and takeaway would be to broaden our perspectives of adventure as operators across the country and think about some of these other outcomes and what is it really about adventure tourism that is meaningful for people, because many of those things can be made much more accessible if we shift the focus away from some of these activities that may seem less accessible. And I guess the other thing that I would say is that requires a lot of support in terms of operators thinking differently. And again, I feel like Jezza does a very great job of talking about that in practice. I'm so aligned with his approach to inclusion and that access is not about ramps. So I would say that, that approach in terms of how can we be more inclusive about this activity and how can we be a bit creative and think about how we actually can bring people on a lot of these journeys in ways if we just think a little more creatively. That also means a lot of guide training and support just to understand what accessibility is. Again, that it's not just about building a ramp for someone who might need better access. It's about, in my guiding career, I've encountered the whole wide range of various needs that people have that we all have in different ways. So just making sure that even whether it's safety talks, whether it's, equipment, there's a whole wide range of training and development for guides and support that can be used to help improve access. And I would say there's something in the chat, but I guess we'll get to
I think that's for once Dr. Eliza's had a turn.
Okay, right. Yeah. So I would be a big proponent of what does this mean in practice? So I've talked a lot about theory, airy-fairy theory here. It means more inclusive design across a range of ways. It might mean a move towards some of the things we've written about micro-adventures. If you haven't seen that term or heard about that movement, I think there are a lot of great implications for access, not just in terms of accessing more physical access for people, but even financial access. So that there's kind of a social justice component to embracing things that are more micro adventures, that are less carbon intensive, that are closer to home, that are achievable within a shorter time frame. So that's sort of another avenue of this that I would be a proponent of. And also partnering with communities and thinking more about the immersion in the natural environment and how that is a really important component of our adventure tourism industry and some of the outcomes people get from it. So I think I've maybe talked over time. I'm very sorry, it's an academic hazard, but I'd love to welcome questions. And I'm delighted Eliza will come after me because she's just a wonderful speaker. Kia ora.
Thank you, Dr. Susan. That was really interesting. Dr. Eliza, what about you? What do you think the role of the tourism industry is in providing access and inclusion for disabled people?
Kia ora, Hope. Kia ora koutou. So I'm Eliza Raymond, a lecturer and the Programme Director for Tourism Management at Te Herenga Waka, Victoria University of Wellington. And I want to start off by reflecting a bit on my own experience and then thinking about it in the context of tourism management education. So before joining academia, I was the director of a tourism company offering group trips in Aotearoa and overseas. And one of our core values was inclusion. So we were proactively inclusive of travellers of diverse cultures, ethnicities, and sexualities. So we were quite deliberate in, for example, how we selected photos in our marketing to represent the diversity of our travellers. We were deliberate in terms of the language that we included in our website to welcome diverse travellers. And we selected partner organisations who shared our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. But when I kind of reflect back on my work in the context of today's Kōrero for Change, I don't believe we were proactively inclusive of disabled people. Instead, I'd say we were perhaps reactively inclusive, to the extent that if someone came to us who was disabled, we'd do our best to design an experience that met their requirements, but we were operating under a predominantly ableist mindset. So how might this have been different? There are, of course, many changes that need to happen, and we've heard about a lot of those this morning. But I'd like to focus on what I know, which is tourism education and the potential role that tourism education could play in shaping the future leaders of our tourism organizations. And I will embrace kind of the idea, the concept of Kōrero for change by making some commitments myself to changes that I will make. And hopefully these changes might inspire others, although my guess is that Brielle and Suzanne are already doing this better than me. So I hope I can learn from you as well. So the first area is that I believe we need to ensure that tourism management is viewed by disabled people as a welcoming and meaningful education and career pathway. If we can increase the number of disabled people studying tourism management, in the future we'll have more disabled people in positions of leadership within the tourism industry. At Te Herenga Waka, where I know you're from as well, Hope, we have 14% of our domestic students registered with Te Amaru, which is our disability services. And this is above the national average of 8% in Aotearoa, and something that we're really proud of. So I want to proactively ensure that those 14% of our students, as well as additional disabled students who might choose not to register their disability, are able to really thrive in our tourism management courses. So my first step was I completed the Disability Confidence 101 course yesterday with Achieve, and I highly recommend it and encourage all of my tourism colleagues to do the same. And then the second opportunity I see is to ensure that our tourism management curriculum is designed to educate all students about the role of the tourism industry in promoting inclusion and belonging for disabled people. So my second commitment is to review how we could better incorporate this content into our curriculum to ensure that the next generation of tourism industry leaders in Aotearoa all recognise the importance of being proactively inclusive of disabled people. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you, Dr. Eliza. Thank you all. It's really great to hear your thoughts. We've now got some questions in the chat from our lovely participants. So I guess like whoever would like to answer these questions can. Question number one, based on your research findings, what roles do you think government has in helping the tourism industry to increase inclusion of disabled people?
Kia ora.
Dr. Susan?
If it's all right, I might sort of combine a few of these. I was thinking about them while Eliza was talking. And from the perspective of the adventure industry in particular, I mean, we have the adventure activities regulations where operators are audited for across a variety of areas. So if you're looking for a clear area where you could integrate something mandatory for accessibility, that would be a clear framework that's already in place that, you know, potentially that could become another component of an adventure audit. What exactly that would look like, I'm sure Jezza would have lots of ideas on more than me, but so that's one thought there. Also, I think having, you know, that's more if you go the mandatory route, if there's more of a best practice educational approach, that might come into some of the educative elements that Eliza was talking about as well, in terms of it might be a university course, but across all of our training providers, you know, providing some best practices, examples, and training would be other good ways to bring that in more of a sort of not as mandatory way, more voluntary. Kia ora.
Thank you, Dr. Susan. Dr. Brielle?
Yeah, I think I'll combine my responses to a few of the questions as well, but I really believe that we need a whole system approach to this, and both the bottom up, top down, and from the top down, I think there's a lot of good practice overseas that we can draw upon in terms of actually setting a framework that can then trickle down to the regional and then the local levels and the providers on the ground. And I did mention that overseas, like the success has stemmed from a combination of things, but having the legislation, having the prioritization of this and the political will, like actually seeing it as something important to push forward on. And I think at the government level, whether that's the national or more regional levels, the data is really key. So collecting the right data so we can actually value this market, promote it, encourage buy-in from businesses. But I think the information piece is really important. Obviously, a lot of individual operators and businesses provide their own information on the accessibility of their offering, but overseas where there has been success is when it has been centralized in a platform, and someone like, or not someone, but an organization like Tourism New Zealand, for example, where it could all be centralized, is a credible place. It's probably the first website an international visitor at least goes to. And we have seen some amazing regional tourism organizations doing work in this space. Venture Taranaki, Tourism Bay of Plenty, and they are kind of, those regions are taking a leadership role and seeing themselves as facilitators, coordinators, pulling together the information, promoting the offerings in their region, sharing resources. And like the resources is another big thing in terms of actually educating the industry on why this is important, what can be done from the low cost, quick wins to the much more longer term, potentially a bit more higher investment stuff, as well as like understanding the access market and the diversity of people and their needs within this.
Thank you, Dr. Brielle. So Dr. Eliza, moving on to you now. What evidence-based action do you think government should be taking? And do you think voluntary guidelines were enough, or do we need mandatory accessibility standards?
I mean, I think the ideal would be mandatory, but I was also reflecting on kind of what's already in place and how we could kind of harness that to better meet the requirements of disabled people. And one thing I was thinking about, and my research is not in accessibility specifically, but I have done a lot of research in sustainability, particularly visitor tourism pledges. So there's various of these around the world. In New Zealand, you may know our tourism pledge is called Tiaki, and it's for both travelers and for businesses. And so I was reflecting on whether there would be a way, and this is a voluntary pledge, but to incorporate accessibility within that pledge, for example. Earlier this morning, we heard from someone who was saying that when she visits motels with her daughter who has autism, they're often told to leave because her daughter is loud, for example. So how can we build a culture amongst travelers to be more understanding and aware of different people? So that could be an aspect of the pledge targeting travelers, and then the other aspect of the pledge in terms of targeting businesses and really encouraging businesses to be more mindful through their commitment to these kind of pledges. So I do think mandatory is probably where we want to be working towards, but I'm also a fan of kind of small steps that we can take towards that. So that could be maybe a solution as well.
Thank you. That sounds really interesting. That sounds like a really cool way to utilize the Tiaki pledge. Another question for whoever wants to take it. Later on, Minister Upston, the Minister for Tourism, will be joining this webinar. Is there any evidence-based action you would encourage her to take regarding accessibility in tourism?
I just think I would reiterate what I said before, like overseas and multiple destinations, they have realized that this is a massive, massive opportunity. Aside from the fact that it is the right thing to do, there is obviously a compelling social case, but there is huge benefits. And this is a market that is only going to become more significant and prevalent over time because we have an aging population. With age comes disability. People want to travel and experience the world, and right now we're possibly not doing enough. And I think it's a very unique position in time where we do have the Minister for both disabled people and tourism. And I just would love to see this prioritised. I mean, in an ideal world, it would be part of our New Zealand government tourism strategy. But at a minimum, trickling down into some sort of like coordinated as a priority, focused on collecting the right data, starting to do that, sharing a commitment to sharing resources, you know, across those upper levels of the industry for everyone. And yeah, just starting to prioritize and take this seriously, because there is a lot of research saying that we're already falling behind our competitors. And this is key to sustainability. It's social sustainability and economic and to destination competitiveness. So I just feel like this is a missed opportunity otherwise.
Thank you, Dr. Brielle. Dr. Eliza, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I was just going to reiterate what Brielle said. I absolutely agree with you. And I think, you know, our current government is very much focused on the growth of the tourism industry, and the recent launch of the Tourism Growth Roadmap is very much focused on increasing international visitor arrivals very quickly. And so using those statistics that you provided, Brielle, is so powerful in terms of showing that this is a huge market, and I guess speaking the government's language. And, you know, Sudersha earlier talked about doing the right thing, and absolutely support that. But I think we can kind of tailor the way that we communicate to align with the government's current priorities to make them see that, you know, this is a real opportunity to contribute towards the achievement of some of the goals that they've set in terms of visitor arrivals.
Thank you, Dr. Eliza. Another question. Obviously, the government taxes tourists who come from overseas. Do you guys know where that tax goes? It's a large amount of money that was designed to be sunk back into tourism improvements. Do you think there's any way you could utilize that extra tax we're getting from overseas visitors when it comes to accessibility?
Kia ora. I mean, I think obviously the answer is yes, it could be allocated. There has certainly been a lot of the discussion around the increase in the tax has been exactly this. How is it, you know, being allocated, and is it being allocated in effective ways for the things that it is intended to either mitigate or support? So that is, I think, an ongoing discussion point for sure. But if we're linking this to the prior question, and you're talking about, you know, how can the government with their campaign, everyone must go. Well, if everyone must go, then there must be a way for everyone to participate. So, you know, if you are speaking that same language, and we've had the minister recently after that, the tourism policy school last year, and we were discussing this very thing about the pushing of demand. And this is a key issue in the tourism industry. This is moving from my adventure tourism hat to more my regional tourism organization, and what are we doing at the national level to structure and integrate tourism. And if we don't have equal support for the supply side, and there are discussions around national tourism authorities and things, and maybe that tax could help fund some of that. But if we don't have support on the supply side, you know, for training, development of infrastructure, or even incentives for operators to move towards more accessible models, then it will be difficult. So I would say that, you know, if the government wants to, one, continue this demand-focused marketing, they could expand that to provide more inclusive marketing, and for the very reasons that we just talked about that I don't need to reiterate, but also on the supply side, then support operators to be able to deliver on that effectively. And that will meet a lot of economic, social, other outcomes. It's not just unidimensional, the benefits of that.
Thank you, Dr. Susan. Another question has come through. It seems like we've got researchers, operators, and disabled communities all very keen to try and make tourism more accessible. but we're often being left out of the tourism industry. So how can researchers, operators, and the disabled community collaborate better and work together to improve accessibility? Do you guys have any ideas?
Well, personally, from a research perspective, all of our research should be partnering with the disabled community, and that's certainly in the research of our tourism group, what we do prioritize is working with, because that community has the lived tacit knowledge. They're the experts. They know what needs to be done. But I do think with the tourism industry, there could be more connections between the tourism industry and the disability community. We did do some work, Professor Alison McIntosh and I, with Venture Taranaki, one of the regional tourism organisations, a few years ago. And they are one of the regions that's doing so much amazing work in this space. You only have to look at their website to see how much they're prioritising access, but they are working with the disability community. We did workshops with representatives from different disability groups, and that, yeah, very much involved in terms of working with them. And I think just to divert back to some of the earlier questions, I think another key point is that this is not just about our visitors to New Zealand or even our visitors around New Zealand. This is about the whole notion of a good place to visit is a good place to live. There's massive benefits for our communities and society when we focus on accessible tourism. So yeah, we do need to partner with the community. We certainly do that in research, but I think maybe some of the links between the tourism industry and disability community could be made stronger, perhaps.
Thank you, Dr. Brielle. I appreciate your input there. Another question. Looking at your research, why do you think it is that so many disabled people have been historically left out of tourism?
I mean, if I were to look at my research area in adventure tourism, I'd say I'd go back to some of the critique that we have of traditional adventure narratives and, even culture in this country and in other Western countries, often around adventure. There's a lot of, heroic stereotypes of guides or participants, or there's a lot of stereotypes of who does what and what that looks like. That again, a lot of our research tries to critique and show that that's actually not the case in terms of necessarily why people do it, and that a lot of those stereotypes are harmful. Actually, Eliza and I did some research on adventure guides and their well-being, and even beyond the participants, that a lot of those elements are not very healthy for their well-being or for that as a sustainable industry or in career path. So I'm diverging a little bit, but I guess my point being that, countering that narrative, I get so many media requests about things like thrill seekers and adrenaline seekers, and all of that narrative just feeds that very narrow perspective on who can participate, why they're doing it, what they get out of it, and what that looks like. And so at the broader societal level, I'd say that is a big component of why that exclusion has happened. And also, I think, people don't know and they don't feel supported and they're not sure how to. This is just speaking not from the research side, but small operators, we are dominated by small to medium-sized businesses that cannot even keep up with their website, or they're trying to keep on top of so many different things that I'm sure that it often feels like that's too hard basket, it's overwhelming or something. And when maybe that's not the case, but I imagine there's a lot of that perception.
Thank you, Dr. Susan. Dr. Eliza, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I was just going to add, I guess, a reflection in terms of bringing it back to tourism management education, because I think if we have more disabled people who are graduating with tourism management degrees and becoming future leaders of some of these small and medium tourism enterprises, or continuing their academic journey and becoming researchers, then it kind of moves beyond, for example, in the research space, research with disabled people to research by disabled people who are really leading the research. And I think that could be a really powerful way to make some shifts as well in terms of how the tourism industry is operating.
Thank you, Dr. Eliza. One final question. Question for Dr. Brielle. Do you have any of your research with the figures you discussed available? Some of our attendees would like to see it, especially when you talk about 50% of travellers being boomers from 2030.
Yes, we have all the stats available, which I can share. We also do have a research repository. If you search AUT Tourism for All New Zealand Research Group, we make sure that all of our research outputs are free to access for everyone. Yes, some of it's not exactly light reading, but there's a lot of good research there that everyone can read if they'd like. But yes, we certainly have the statistics and things like that. They are obviously increasing all the time. But the most recent Tourism Australia report has those Australian figures, which are obviously really compelling too.
Thank you so much, Dr. Brielle. Good on you for making all your research accessible. I know as a student, I can find it very difficult when research is behind paywalls. So thank you all for your contributions today. It's been really valuable and I really appreciate your time and your thoughts and your energy. I'll hand it back over to Sam.
Sweet as. Cheers, Hope, and thanks again to the Thinkers panel. There are some really good answers to those, equally good questions. We're now going to have a 10-minute break, so we'll be reconvening at 10:40 and go to the toilet and go have something to eat. Sweet as. Oh, well, I hope you've all enjoyed a little brief break. Coming up next is our third panel called The Creators. Moderating this panel is Juliana Carvalho, and she is the Access Matters Aotearoa Strategic Programs and Impact Lead. And she also told me to introduce her as the New Zealand's worst wheelchair rugby player, which I don't believe is true, but that's what she said. So I'll hand it over to her.
Kia ora, Sam. Thank you. And I am the worst wheelchair rugby player in New Zealand. I know that, and that's okay. So I'm super excited to introduce the panelists for the third panel, the creators. So we have Scott Hirschberger, he's the CEO and founder of Access Maps. Olivia Dobbs, marketing and events coordinator for the top 10 holiday parks. Simon Alefocio Tuck, recreation partnerships advisor at Rotorua Lakes Council. Thank you so much for giving your time today to be here with us. You have now 5 minutes to your initial statement addressing the question. What is the role of tourism in the process of access for people with disabilities? We can start with Scott, then Olivia, and Simon.
Hi, this is Scott. Thank you, Juliana, and for everyone organizing the koreo today. I'd like to quickly also thank our interpreters that are helping ensure that this is a truly inclusive forum for everyone to participate. For anyone that has a visual impairment, I am a white presenting male wearing a gray shirt with a blank background behind me. And if you need more information, I've been told I look exactly as I sound. Take that as you will. So when it comes to tourism, I think that it has an incredible role for inclusion for communities with all accessibility requirements. Because when we think about travel, being able to participate, there's a whole host of things that goes into one, planning a journey for anyone, regardless of accessibility requirement, and also the complete breadth of what we look at as far as tourism goes in general, where there's a lot of talk and discussion around adventure tourism in New Zealand in particular, the home of bungee jumping. That makes a lot of sense. But there's also taking into consideration the changing age demographics that are happening throughout the global markets for tourism as well, where adventure tourism might not be the top of mind for anyone that might be choosing New Zealand as that destination location where people are coming to experience. It could be wanting to travel, experience a lot of cultural events, cultural sites. It could be partaking in engaging in museums, theatrical shows, engaging in sporting events. I recommend highly going and watching a Steamrollers game if you get the chance. That way, Juliana can either prove or disprove her credentials, depending on how she would like to. But also, New Zealand's the home of the All Blacks. As someone that never grew up with rugby, I've loved going to All Blacks games whenever I get the chance. So it's always about taking a look at the why for anyone that is traveling and how you're going to be accomplishing that. Through what we've done with Access Maps, it's all about being able to try and provide clear, transparent information about a whole host of pretty much any visitor experience because we want to take a full spectrum approach and whole of life approach look at accessibility and inclusion. So that means not just saying we're looking purely at accommodation, but we also understand that's only a portion of the journey, or the activities are only while you're out and about. But what happens when you need to find food, you need to find local services, banking, dry cleaning. You need to be able to figure out where a repair shop might be to be able to fix a piece of accessible equipment. And through all of that, where's your parking? Where are your pickup and drop off zones? If we're going out into nature, what is going to be an accessible track, trail, reserve, beach, you name it. And so we want to be able to make sure that all this information is actually coming together. Because when we're talking about accessibility and how we can actually participate more fully from a visitor's experience perspective, I'd like to say, or actually sample from a couple of people that I've really enjoyed working with over the years. Kyle Kidd at Rotorua NZ is really drawing attention that New Zealand is a destination location. If you're coming to New Zealand, you're not transiting through or stopping over for a layover. You're in New Zealand because you want to be in New Zealand. Uh, and on top of that, it's also what are you doing here that makes the experience your reason for being here? So understanding that travelers on holiday are one thing, but there's also corporate travelers, national events, international events that are gaining more attention for being in New Zealand. Just taking a look at the Rugby World Cup from a couple of years ago and the FIFA's Women's World Cup as well. All of these are international events that are bringing more and more attention to the country and drawing more attention to the tourism industry as a whole. So when you're taking a look at all these events that are, one, being bid on, understanding accessibility is a key requirement for many participants, but also the fact that you have a large demographic of spectators and viewers of these events as well that are going to need that information ahead of time. It's invaluable. So I'll quickly conclude my time by mentioning what Tana had mentioned earlier about Airbnb and capturing the information, making it easy to relay. That's something that we've actually helped support and say if we're capturing information, make sure that it is transparent, it is verified, and it's easy to be able to relay on to everyone. So I'll leave that here and look forward to hearing questions from the rest of the panel.
Olivia, you can go next.
Kia ora koutou. I'm Olivia Dobbs, the Marketing and Events Coordinator for Top 10. Just bear with me, I'm starting to lose my voice a little bit, so if I do cut out, I'm very sorry. I'm excited to share a bit about Top 10's accessibility journey and what our role is in access tourism. One of my roles at Top 10 is overseeing our assessment process. Each park is assessed annually by an external assessor covering everything from maintenance, quality of accommodation, amenities, etc., all the way through to social responsibility, which for us includes sustainability.
Would you mind slowing down just a little
cool.
bit?
Sorry.
So the interpreter can keep up.
Perfect. Sorry. Cool. So social responsibility, which for us includes sustainability, community, culture and heritage, and importantly, inclusivity and accessibility. A few years ago, we began working with the amazing team at B-Lab to better understand how we were performing in the accessibility space. Together, we developed a self-assessment tool for our parks to evaluate themselves, which helps us see where we stood as a franchise and where we could improve in their accessible, or where parks could improve in their accessible offerings. From that, we received about 45 individual accessibility reports, which were reviewed and consolidated into 4 key focus areas. The first one was getting ready to go. How easy is it to find and plan an accessible stay? Then arriving and getting in from car parks to check-in, getting around within, the experience once you're on site, and staff and culture, the attitudes and awareness that underpin everything. Admittedly, our parks had mixed reactions at first. We began this work post-COVID when finances were tight and many feared would ask them to rebuild their accessible units or make costly infrastructure changes. But our message was simple, that accessibility doesn't always start with money, it starts with mindset. Through workshops and Hui with the B-Lab team, we helped shift thinking away from accessibility is just for people with visible disabilities to accessibility benefits everyone. For example, marking steps on uneven flooring helps not just wheelchair users, but also older guests, parents with toddlers, or anyone carrying luggage. Or like making sure our website images have alternative text in order to support those using screen readers, but it also helps boost SEO and helps guests find us more easily online.
Olivia, please slow down a little bit. You're super fast. I can see the New Zealand Sign Language interpreter is trying to keep up. Just try to read a little bit slower. Thank you.
Perfect. It's not just about doing what's right, although that's reason enough, but it makes strong business sense. Accessible tourism is still an underserved market, and we want Top 10 to be at the front of people's minds when they plan their holidays. A part of this process has been recognising where we're already doing things well. Many parks walk the guests to sites on arrival or provide clear maps and orientation, small touches that make a big difference in making guests feel comfortable and supported. A lot of feedback we received from people with lived experience was that the most important part of their stay was the service they received when they checked in. Providing warm and professional service is something we know our parks do well every day, so reinforcing the idea that they're already on the right track helped instill a bit of confidence as the foundation was already there. Our work with B-Lab became a part of our official assessment framework. At this stage, it's primarily for learning and data collection, not to mandate identical standards across all 49 parks. After all, what accessibility looks like in a park like Fox Glacier might differ from what's needed at a park on the beach. There's no one-size-fits-all approach, and whether that's investing in beach wheelchairs or building relationships with local tourism providers to understand their accessible offerings, our goal is to help parks see what they can do to benefit their guests. We're looking at what we as a central office can do, from things like an accessibility statement on our website to explain where we are in our journey, facilitating learning opportunities for parks, and continuing to push to change through our audits. We're working on locating the quick wins and keeping accessibility at the front of our minds when we work on tech developments like our website. We've also invested in 360-degree virtual tours on our website, which helps give guests a clear view of what to expect before they arrive. This has been really valuable for guest planning around specific access needs. But as with many accessibility projects, this is an ongoing journey. We've built a strong foundation through workshops, regular assessments, and conversations with people who have lived experience. Unfortunately, our work paused earlier this year when B-Lab lost its government funding, a real setback, as their lived experience input was crucial. But we're determined to keep moving forward and keep accessibility as a priority. At the end of the day, our role as industry leaders is to continue to push for change, and being a part of these conversations like this one today equips us with more insight, therefore allowing us to make decisions that positively impact tourism. Apologies for the speed, but we'll wrap up and pass on to the next. Thank you.
Yeah, Olivia, thank you. I know when you're passionate about something, we tend to speak faster, but I was really seeing Rachel like trying really hard to keep up with your pace. So
I think it's nerves as well.
You're brilliant.
But thank you, Rachel.
You did great. That was great. Thank you so much for sharing. Okay, Simon, to you.
Kia ora koutou. I'm Simon Alefisiotак from Rotorua Lakes Council. I'll apologise in advance for what generally will happen is my high-speed nervous waffling. So, yeah, well, hopefully I'll be able to rein it in. So, so I work for Rotorua Lakes Council and part of the Parks and Recreation team. And and my role is around, pretty much talking to the community to ensure that we're heading down the right track when we're just in the way that we work as the Parks and Recreation team. As a council, fortunately or unfortunately, we're involved in huge breadth of work within the city, and so as a tourism destination, our city was created by the Ministry of Tourism back in the day. We've grappling with a number of things to ensure that accessible tourism within Rotorua is successful. I guess the one of the bigger things is our outdated infrastructure. Like many cities, towns, things were made that didn't have a lot of input from the wider community, and so we tout that we have letdowns so you can cross the road. That letdown may mean that you have to travel 50 metres up the road to someone's driveway, cross the road, and then travel 50 metres back again. So, just crossing one road may add 100 metres onto your journey. And so, just those old ways of doing things are, something that we're needing to get on top of, and, doing things so it just meets the Building Act and that type of thing. So, these are things that we're quite cognizant of, but unfortunately we are also very aware that they are creating day-to-day issues for our residents, but also for our visitors, which we're incredibly proud to host. Probably the work that I'm more involved in personally is around nature experiences. And I guess we've talked a lot about, previous presenters have talked about adventure tourism and thrill seeking and things. And I guess we are quite aware that unfortunately still currently, but definitely in the past, a lot of decisions have been made for all facets of the community without actually speaking to them. So, there's a lot of, it's very clear, some of the research that's gone on that, folks with disabilities are, they're after nature experiences, and they're after experiences that will, push their limits as well, whatever those limits are, just the same as non-disabled folks. So, we're trying to engage more with the community to find out what exactly what exactly folks are after in regards to nature experiences. And we're pretty lucky here that we have our environment is arguably fairly flat, and so we should be able to provide very accessible nature experiences. And so by partnering with the likes of Fish and Game, we now have a number of trout fishing platforms that we deem to be accessible. We've got a mai for duck shooting that's accessible. And so, these what would be viewed as non-traditional experiences for those with disabilities, we're hoping to, try and create them into being traditional experiences. Definitely the perception of budget implications around making things more accessible is something that we grapple with on a day-to-day basis, and particularly around designers and developers. I feel that they're quite slow to catch on to universal design, and that the thought is that it is extra cost, that it is, going to impact a project dramatically. Being in a team that manages things well after the project is completed, the impact of not doing that up front is quite substantial, as a lot of us already know. Retrofitting is just horrendous to say the least, and so we want to try and get things right from the start. I think there's a real misconception that just because you're paying a designer or a project management company a fair chunk of change, they will have everything covered, particularly around accessibility, where unfortunately that's not the case yet. Like to think that moving forward that will be, but currently we're still needing to get a little bit of micromanagement going on to ensure that those accessible details are being included within the design, and then that flows down into keeping an eye on contractors and things. We've had the experience, which I've shared publicly before, where we've dropped $500,000 on a accessible toilet block, and every toilet had a lip going into them. So and that was a contractor decision, with the project manager going, it should be sweet. So we definitely need to up our game in multiple aspects of things that we are doing. probably a big game changer for us, particularly around making nature experiences accessible, was would you like me to just we've changed. Sorry, I was just pausing for the interpreter, but yeah, we got a new one. Awesome. Sorry about that. Was the outdoor accessibility standards that were created with Recreation Aotearoa. And so I guess the question that was continually put to us is, what is accessible when it comes to nature or outdoor experiences? And now, using those guidelines, we're able to create things that are a lot more accessible, but also we're able to accurately pass on to the public what the experience is. And so, not everything will be accessible for everybody, particularly in the outdoors, but what's extremely important is everybody knowing what that experience is before they embark on it. And so hopefully using those guidelines, we're able to increase those experiences dramatically, or quality of experiences dramatically for folks. Probably the biggest thing that we try to do now is to involve, I guess, specialist groups. So, the Rotorua Access Group, we've got a number of residents that are on that group that can give us very good information with either lived experiences, etc., but also being involved in the industry. And so, we're able to get some really good feedback to hopefully have our designs really well nailed before we go out to construction or rebuilding them. And so having those groups involved is really important. The likes of Adapt MTB, so an adaptive mountain bike organisation. And so while on the surface they look at the track and go, hey, the track is this and that, they do provide a very good holistic overview of our facilities around accessibility. So, the time you turn up in the car park through to the time that you're driving out again, the track is only a small piece of that experience. And so by involving a group like that, we're able to hopefully provide a way better experience all round. And things like organisations like Halberg are just invaluable to us to be able to get feedback and things on. I guess as a whole, we are very keen to get feedback on our facilities or our city. Knowing that Jezza Williams has my phone number in his contact list, we're definitely not short of feedback, but definitely encourage you to get stuck in and let us know, because just little bits of feedback can be incredibly invaluable to us. One email saying, hey, there's a tree stump and can you chop 20 centimeters off it, and it'll be just creates a whole new experience. Those little bits of feedback can be incredibly important and then open up a whole new experience. So I think that's me, but definitely very keen on any questions that you would like to fire my way. So thanks heaps.
Kia ora. Thank you so much. That was really cool to hear. I love going to Rotorua. I came to New Zealand as a tourist, and I tried everything that I could, like luge, sky swing. I pass out, but I had my brother who was very strong, and back then I was very slim, so he carried me around. But if it wasn't for that, I probably would not be able to, enjoy all the activities. So we have a question that came through the Q&A. With regards to making the top 10 holiday parks more accessible, who's responsible to set the wheels in motion? I like the pun. It is the council, the property owner, the management. I think that's for you, Olivia.
Yeah, cool. Olivia speaking. That is usually the responsibility of the park owners themselves. As each park is individually owned and operated, there are some nuances across the group. So the land might be owned by the council, but the park itself is owned by someone individual. So it is a collaborative effort sometimes, but in most cases it is the decision of the park owner to get it moving. So it's our job as a central office to help guide them when they're making these new decisions. If they're wanting to expand or renovate, it's that's why we've done our work with B-Lab, is to help provide that information so that when they do these upgrades or infrastructure changes, we've got the tools there for them to use. Hopefully that clears it up.
Yeah, no, that's very, very helpful. And Scott, there's a question for you. How does Access Maps work, and where do you see it for the future in helping visitors to our country?
Yeah. So Access Maps is really about being able to have a, should I say, we help each individual organization, that being an individual tourism operator, cafe, bar, restaurant, shopping center, council, national organization, take ownership of how they capture and present their existing accessibility information. So we try and take a strengths-based approach to what's accessible. So it's not about saying, hey, we're 100% perfect, take a look and see. It's about being able to say across the spectrum of accessibility, this is where we are. This is what might be partially accessible or where there might be obstacles or barriers for some visitors. And this is a reliable way to be able to actually convey that information, not just across, the individual's website or social media accounts, but also kind of pull information from our network of wider providers like councils, transportation organizations, and, those wider range of amenities to be able to actually fill in the gaps in accessibility, where like accessible parking is a great example of that, where I believe 35% of accessible parking spaces in New Zealand are privately managed. So if someone was looking to find the nearest accessible parking space to a venue, to an event, to something along those lines, the information that's provided just strictly through that provider might not be adequate, but we can pull in the information from the surrounding city and help ensure that should I say, experience and outing travel in general isn't going to result in having to turn back or go back to accommodation. So what we view it moving forward is being able to provide these tools to wider partners and also ensure that these tools can also link into other platforms such as your Airbnbs, your Booking.coms, your TripAdvisors, and so on and so forth. That way you have reliable accessibility information wherever you go. But that's a little bit of where we are right now, and I could go on for days with some of the things that we've got lined up, but I'll save that for another time.
Thanks, Todd. Yeah, and sorry I say visitors, but actually that helps everyone, like locals as well. And I think as a wheelchair user, a lot of time goes into planning and trying to figure out, where's the parking? Is it truly accessible? Is the bathroom, so it's a lot of time that we spend that non-disabled people usually don't think about. So having that like in an app on your phone that you can quickly check, it's a game changer. So in terms of, I think one of the main roadblocks that we see from policymakers is this idea that there is a exacerbated cost to make things accessible. What would you say to that?
I hope you don't mind if I jump in on that, just because when we work with the range of kind of one organizations such as councils, regional kind of like tourism bodies, and so on. And I think the first kind of misconception is being able to understand where you're at now and how just little changes to make sure that things are actually what they're indicated as make a huge difference. So I know we heard from Tana earlier today, and I hope she doesn't mind if I shout out some of the work that Tauranga City Council's done. But we've helped kind of create a accessibility data set of a lot of their public spaces, amenities, and locations throughout the region, which means that they were able to kind of go through and say, this is how we can do targeted change, but also be able to make simple changes like, oh, we need to just ensure that small maintenance fixes are adjusted throughout these locations, and then it increases accessibility immensely. So it's not about having to do a complete overhaul, but just being able to provide that information, and how you utilize data is a huge way to be able to make small changes that have the bigger impact. But then on the other side, it's also about being able to kind of dive in a little bit further and say, how are we going to be able to plan for the future? Because we know we talk a lot about physical infrastructure and what's accessible from probably the point of view from a mobility assistance standpoint. But what do we need to do as an organization to ensure that neurodiversity is part of our inclusion? How are we going to be able to best support our blind visitors and those with deafness and limited hearing? And so it's about being able to say, where are you at now, and how can you, or like, what are the best pathways to be able to get to where you'd like to be in the future? Because if you say, hey, this is what we have to do overall, everything goes in the too hard basket, and you don't make those incremental changes to progress.
Yeah, thank you. That's very helpful. Simon, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's around just, I guess, education for those policymakers that, you know, there's multiple examples out there of very accessible facilities that have cost, you know, they're cost neutral, shall we say, you know, they haven't cost more than what a non-accessible facility would have. And in some aspects, you know, they can cost less, I'd argue. Yeah, and it is just that education, I think, around that. And so, you know, while there's the construction costs, the ongoing costs are the thing that's actually the real concern for, I think, for the majority of us councils, that you know, our operational budgets, the budget that we have to fix and maintain things, you know, that they are very lean and appear to be getting leaner. So, you know, we want to be doing it right the first time, and even if there ends up being, you know, more of a cost 10 years later, no one's going to be remembering that cost if it's a incredibly good facility. So, you know, that's something that the councillors, you know, can be hanging their hat on, saying we supported this, if you like.
Thank you. So there's another question that came through the Q&A, and to top 10. As a family who loves to travel and often try and stay in holiday parks because they offer more accessible options for families, how can you ensure that the few accessible rooms are on offer? Sorry, how can you ensure that the few accessible rooms are on offer, are available for people who need them? Often we find non-disabled people booked in.
Olivia here again. This is a great question, and I would love people's suggestions and feedback on this. But obviously, we want the accessible options bookable on the website so that there's not further hoops to jump through for people to make the booking. But to have it on the website, it will need to be open to all people to be able to book. So whether that's making sure our descriptions of the rooms really highlight the fact that these rooms are going to provide specific tools for a specific need, and that if you don't require those needs, here's what you can book instead. So guiding people to other options through the descriptions is probably the first thing I can think of. But we want to minimize, there's already enough hoops, right, to jump through when booking accommodation. We want to minimize that. So we don't want people to have to call up reception to say, I want to book the accessible option that you've got. It's not available. What can you do for me? That's just an extra step. So that's something we need to look at with how other accommodation providers might sell their accessible units. So that's, yeah, if you've got suggestions, feel free to send them through to me. I'd love to hear.
Yeah, I think that's such a great point, because as someone who travels as well, you know, it's a little frustrating to not be able to book online.
Yeah.
You spend so much time, you know, and not having photos of what the bathroom looks like and the bed height. And yeah, so on the other hand, there's this issue that if it's available online, people who don't need it might book it. So yeah, please put in the comments any suggestions that can help with that. One more question. What would be one small change that you would, if you could make, would have a big impact to make inclusive tourism a reality in New Zealand?
My one small change, focus on the idea that everything's a shareable experience. because the inclusive travel community, either, requiring accessibility assistance while traveling, or if you're an older person that's looking to visit a new country, peer-to-peer referral is held in a lot higher regard. So each of the aspects treat it like it's the fact that someone's going to relay that exact point on. I love doing this. You would love this too. Because if you're speaking from lived experience to lived experience, that's huge.
Thank you. That's great.
Yeah, Simon here. Probably better coordination between the various agencies and business, if you like. There's getting from your car into your accommodation and out down to the eatery. There's a myriad of different accountable people or accountable organisations, I guess. And so, without that coordination between us all, it's hard to provide a consistent experience across the district, the city, and so better communication, coordination, and that and the us all singing from the same piece, one song sheet is probably something I see would make quite a big difference.
Thank you. And Olivia, what do you think?
Olivia here. I agree with what Simon and Scott have both said. Consistency is the number one thing. For us anyway, we get people traveling from park to park. They design their routes based on the top locations, but because each park is so different, each location being so different, it's hard to get consistency across the board. But we want people to show up knowing that what they need is going to be there for them. So consistency, I guess.
Thank you. And thanks, Sudesh. Sudesh put a comment for us here that in Sudima's experience, is that accessible rooms are not booked by people who don't need them. So they sell them online, and this guarantees that someone has booked accessible room will get that when they check in. Thank you, Sudesh. So we have time for one final question. Just checking in the chat here. Yeah. So what message would you give to tourism operators who think accessibility is not a priority?
For this, I'd try and quote Vivian Naylor, who's from CCS Disability Action, where you say if you're not designing accessibility in, you're designing profit out, because you don't know what accessibility is for an individual. So 1 in 4 people in New Zealand identifying as having an accessibility requirement, it's huge. And just simply taking the information that's there already helps answer questions. And it's not just a matter about profitability, but it's also about reducing risk as well. The risk to anyone that might be traveling as a visitor, anyone that might be local that's experiencing things with friends and family, and also risk to staff as well. So reliable information is huge.
Simon, any thoughts on that? And then Olivia, and then our time is up.
Yeah, I think is it Brielle, Dr. Brielle, some of the figures that she was throwing out there, are pretty eye-watering in regards to, what potentially could happen within the industry. And at the end of the day, operators are businesses, and and they need to be, sustainable, financially sustainable. And so it does feel as though there's quite a hidden market in New Zealand for accessible tourism. And, the folks that are doing it well seem to have a quite a chunk of custom. And so I think it is just around opening the eyes of a lot of operators to go, hey, actually, there's a couple of things you could do a little bit different, and there's a whole new market available to you. So I think it's just a little bit of education perhaps around accessible tourism.
Thank you. And Olivia, that quick shot, and then I will
I again completely agree. Just communication and having the information accessible and reframing people's mindsets of what accessible tourism is, I think, is key. But yeah.
Thank you so much. I will now pass back to Sam, who is actually a very good wheelchair rugby player.
Nah, all good. Thanks, Juliana, and the creators panel. Our fourth and final panel, which is one I'm actually quite excited about because this is the one that it's a panel all about people actually making things happen on the ground. This panel is the doers, and our moderator for this panel is Eamon Wood, who traveled extensively with his wheelchair in his 20s, and on his return, he turned to writing about his adventures in his book titled A Backpack, a Chair, and a Bed. So I'll hand it over to Eamon.
Thanks, Sam. And thanks everyone for being here. I'm very excited to have been asked to moderate the Doers group, as I know personally most of these people and have experienced obviously backpacking and use these people's services and things. So firstly on the panel is Jezza Williams, founder and CEO of Making Tracks, heavily involved in shaping inclusive tourism in Aotearoa, educating people, organizations, and businesses. And, we've heard his name thrown around a lot, so I suspect people will have a lot of questions and also know Jezza one way or another. Next is Sandy Grant, director, lead holiday planner and tour guide for Ability Adventures, as well as being an occupational therapist, so having a depth of knowledge of the human body, equipment. So very excited to hear some insight from that point of view. And lastly is Margaret Hawkes, a real doer, director of Freedom Mobility, one of the main mobility vehicle hire companies in New Zealand. So offering some insight into how people can actually get around New Zealand, being so spread out. So you have 5 minutes for an initial statement addressing the question, what is the role of tourism in the process of access and belonging for people with disabilities? So Jezza, if we could start with you, sir.
Hey, Eamon. Hello, everyone. Can you just rephrase that question? Sorry, Eamon.
Yep. So what is the role of tourism in the process of access and belonging for people with disabilities?
That's a complicated question. So for me, what I believe the tourism industry should be doing with people with or without disabilities is providing an experience that suits their individual abilities. Everybody has a different ability, and there's adventures and experiences for every single ability out there. So the most important, I think, is through the knowledge and the staff skill and the understanding of the staff, but then also the information that the staff and the business provides an individual, so an individual can safely choose whether or not they can do their activity. But it does take a lot of understanding within the business to realize how they can either adapt or trust the individuals that are going to do the experience. Because I think in New Zealand especially, we have a very much when we talk about disability, we kind of have a implicit social bias where we kind of think this is going to be kind of difficult, where it's just an attitudinal issue or a societal issue. We do have a very much a them and us society in New Zealand, which is a bit random. We even in this hui, we're talking a lot about the disability community, whereas there is a community of humans with all different abilities, and there's a whole bunch of activities that people can do right now. So a lot of it is about information, but education is the number one. I have a little formula that I say when I train up businesses. It is pretty much education. So that's education for the business to understand how, and awareness. And then it's information. So information so a customer can choose whether or not it suits their ability. And then it's cooperation, and that's understanding how they can work together to better that experience, or as Susan said earlier, understanding adventure-based tourism is very much lateral thinking. We don't assume in adventure-based tourism because it's dangerous. And then it's adaptation. Adaptation can be a simple solution or an adaptation. And then it's promotion. And so being able to promote it correctly, and authentication, so authentic experiences, so they're in it for the right cause. Thank you.
Thanks, Jezza. And yeah, I can vouch for your education to businesses and organizations as having used it. So thank you. Sandy, if you could come on.
Unmuting helps. Kia ora, I'm Sandy from Ability Adventures. Nice to see my panel here, Jezza and Margaret. And I'm assuming you've both been here since the very beginning, so it's been a long sitting waiting for our turn, but super interesting listening to all the other panelists. So I'm excited to be part of the panel, and thanks for inviting me. Ability Adventures was started by my cousin Marina, who's also an occupational therapist, and she was also a co-founder of an ecotourism business many, many years ago. So she identified there was a need and a place, a service to enable other people to holiday in New Zealand, and that's how she started Ability Adventures. Marina retired. I worked for Marina on and off, and for the ecotourism company. So I do have when I was a student, I worked as a tour guide, and then in my professional career as an occupational therapist, I kind of like enjoyed a few summers guiding trips. So with Ability Adventures, we just believe everybody should have access to a holiday. Doesn't matter, irrespective of their abilities. We also recognise that our clients are the experts in identifying their needs, their support needs. And we also really, really value the partnership we have with our industry partners who understand and respond to our needs, our clients' needs. So yeah, that's Ability Adventures. And I think I definitely, with Jezza and Margaret, we come from a place of absolutely living it. I've just finished a 9-day trip guiding. I've got a guide on a 14-day trip at the moment, and I've got 2 self-drive holidays. One's just finishing tomorrow and another one's partway through. So we're really busy. This sector's huge. It's really, really busy. Every single person that comes to Ability Adventures, believe it or not, we don't even advertise. People just find us by Googling. We offer 100% bespoke. So we have a Zoom call with someone. I mean, building rapport is probably the key to clients trusting that we can do what we will do. There'll always be compromises. There'll be things we find along the way. If it's a self-drive trip, we stay connected with them the whole way so that if anything goes wrong, we can, or any weather changes or anything, we can help them out. So right from the time that they meet with us on a Zoom call, we're trying to build that rapport and trust so that when they get to New Zealand, they just have the best possible time they can. Adventure. So, I mean, the name of our company is Ability Adventures. I guess in my experience in tourism in New Zealand, that adventure is seeing the natural beauty of New Zealand. It's not necessarily bungee jumping. Adventure tourism is relatively small from my perspective, It's more about experiencing our beautiful, great outdoors, our unique ecology, and the culture we have here. And absolutely, some of our groups skydive, some of them whitewater raft, but majority is wanting to access our trails, wanting to meet our people, wanting to drink our fresh water out of rivers in Milford, wanting to see the cultural experiences. Yeah, we've got a really unique, exciting place to live. And it's really, really fun being a guide here and sharing that with anybody that comes, no matter what their abilities. Yeah. So yeah, we're pretty busy. Anyone will need a job guiding? Hook me up. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Sandy. And I'm sure everyone is very thankful that they have companies like yours to explore New Zealand and see that natural beauty. Margaret.
Hi, Eamon. Hi, team. Nice to be here. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, it just feels weird in my headphones. Hey, so it's so exciting to be able to share with everyone this morning how much fun it is to be involved in helping people in the tourism industry, and especially in this part of it. I run a company, Freedom Mobility, that's got a large number of tourism vehicles. They're all modified. They all have LVVTA certification because they've had things done to them. And people either self-drive in them, or they travel as passenger with someone in their family driving them, or some of them are driven by the person from their wheelchair themselves. Not so many. So from the tourism part of the business, we absolutely adore making friends with people. It's just our mission. We just absolutely love it. And to me, that is the key to helping people in this area, is just to know who they are and how they see themselves, how they live, and how they, I guess, what their interests are and all that kind of thing. So we can then make sure that we really meet that need. So as Sandy said, it's all about relationship, which of course is so much fun. We just absolutely, by the time somebody comes to visit, especially from overseas, it's usually been planned for some time. And we sort of know them and their family members if they're traveling with family, and we know what they like to do, and we can make suggestions or put them onto there's parts of our website where we've taken everyone's feedback from previous trips, because we can't really speak from the wheels, as it were, but people from previous trips often give us really positive feedback afterwards, and I'll say, oh, is there any particular thing you'd like to recommend? And quite often people will speak and say, oh, look, there's this thing, and I've got 15 photos of that bathroom, or I've got the measurements of this, or, oh gosh, we were so tired and it was raining in Dunedin, and we just didn't know what to do, and my daughter was feeling quite sleepy, so we went to the butterfly place in the museum, and she was just in awe. You know what I mean? So there's just great bits of information that we're lucky enough to get given by the people we've made friends with as clients, and then we can put that on our website and share it wider if anyone asks generally about what to do. What we've learned from making friends with people is that there is just such a diversity in being a human. Such a diversity. I mean, you might see on a website, go to Rotorua, there's hot pools, and you're thinking, oh, someone might think, well, is that accessible? But ask the person, they might hate hot pools. It doesn't suit them at all to go into hot pools. The only people that we know that love hot pools are the post-polio people. Everybody else, high level tetras and so on, it's just too much of a faff. And yeah, so it's sort of knowing what people might want and checking out with them what they would really love. Same with beaches. I mean, fortunately, there's decent, accessible equipment for beaches, but some people just, it's not their place. They want to go somewhere else. So, they might be huge gardeners back at home, and they want to do a tour around people doing similar things here. They want to connect with people. They want to connect with our culture. They want to have people-to-people experiences often. They want to see, as Sandy says, our nature and ecology and what makes us so special. And I guess once again, it just comes back to relationships and connection. If they've connected with people in their time in New Zealand, or domestic tourism within New Zealand, if they made good connections, then that's often been the success that is more than anything else. We often like to ask people about their family and some of their motivations for traveling. Sometimes they're wanting to make memories. Sometimes they've got a bit of a bucket list. Sometimes they have got perhaps a limited lifespan and they're really keen to get some stuff done. And yeah, we just react to that and try and look after the whole whānau and make sure that what we provide is going to help everybody. So yeah, that's how we approach things. And I think the other thing I just want to raise is independence, or how people see their independence is very different. Even people with a similar appearance of ability. Some people want to be very, very independent, and other people are quite happy to accept a lot of help. And I totally respect that either way. I just really think that that's the key to getting it right. So I just really look forward to hearing more from the people on this cool panel and having heaps of questions that hopefully we can have a go at cracking. Thanks.
Thanks, Margaret. It's awesome to hear from you. So I'll just move into some questions. I've got questions myself, but I will start with some that have come through. This one's probably aimed more towards you, Margaret, so I'll start with you. Many people want access to accessible caravans. Why in New Zealand have we not got access to this in mainstream campervan hire?
That's a really great question, Eamon. What's an accessible campervan for you, Eamon?
Well, like you say, everyone's so different. I probably don't need an accessible campervan. I'll just transfer in and kind of crawl around. But, someone that struggles to get out of their chair, or maybe they're not driving. So that's, like you said before, disabilities are so different.
So if I make an accessible camper van that someone can get into with a hoist, perhaps someone on wheels that needs a hoist to get in, then it could be that they are rather upset with me because they might not have hand controls with which they could drive, right? Or they might feel that they need a hoist to get into bed, so the bed needs to be quite high. But then for someone who's in a manual chair, the bed needs to be quite low, or else they can't roll on in. And then there's that question of, well, I don't use those hand controls. I use these other hand controls. And it's a kind of a minefield, to be honest. So everyone loves them, except the idea of an accessible camper is fabulous. And what I would recommend to people who know each other and have got similar sort of abilities is to get together and make a syndicate, like you're buying an airplane or a sailboat, and then use Camplify, which is the Airbnb of campers, to put it out there for people when they, as the syndicate, are not using it. They're very, very expensive. The daily rate would be huge, and that would probably ruin my brand because people would jump on Facebook and say, oh, she overcharges. I've just looked so deeply into this and I cannot make it work. That's me.
And also, Eamon, I've been contacting the mainstream campervan, Maui campers, and all these businesses for eons, even when they were sitting and rotting in behind Queenstown Airport during COVID times. And yeah, no interest whatsoever. So there is the one that Cat organised, and it is getting a lot of use. I do believe there is opportunity for it, but within the mainstream, I think that say Maui camper vans, with the amount of camper vans they have, or another business like that, because they're made in New Zealand and because they work on them, then I don't see why potentially they could have a number of different models. They don't have to be for super high needs. I realize people want things for super high needs, but the more higher needs, obviously, as Margaret pointed out, the more difficult it is to adapt or tailor something so specific. And yeah, so there is opportunity there, definitely, for something that is for the, say, the more functioning abilities. Yeah, but again, it's all got to do with attitudes. That's the number one when it comes to this industry. It's not dealing with massive corporates that look at the dollar rather than the human. And that's where so many businesses these days are, that's corporations. Until something's brought in to say that, like everybody wants to be sustainable, why doesn't people want to be inclusive? And that's where that market needs to have more respect, is that inclusivity side of things.
Yeah. Did you have anything to add, Sandy? Do you come across this at all?
Yeah, a lot. It would be amazing if we did have some more, say, accessible camper van style vehicles in New Zealand. And I think Jezza hit on it. It probably does need to be one of the big players that can probably absorb some of that cost, because it just becomes outside anyone's, like small businesses. We're only a country of 5 million people, so we are limited to that, and we all have to sort of make a living as well to pay our bills. Yeah, so I think making some vehicles available that are accessible to most, as opposed to trying to make them accessible to all. The one that Kat did, which Milner, it's rented out of Milner, you can't rent it by yourself. It's a 2-person job. You can't operate the rear hoist unless you're outside the vehicle. So there's a lot of things that someone like, say, a lot of solo travelers that want to come to New Zealand that, say, have a disability, they want a small van or a small, yeah. So, but they might only get 2 or 3 of those a year. So then that's not financially viable for anyone. Yeah, but I do actually see that it is going to happen. It's just a matter of time.
Yes, thanks, Sandy. Margaret?
I was just going to say that people often say to me, "Oh, but Margaret, they have these things in Australia. You can hire them in Australia, and the ones in Australia have kind of like a pop-up tent for the toilet. So you have to get out, pop the tent up, use the toilet or the shower in the tent, and then and sure that that may work, but I can just imagine that may not be well received by the punters. It could be real death to the brand. You're only as good as your last hire, really, or your last holiday.
I have so many questions, but I will keep going through some of these. What is the biggest barrier your clients face when traveling in NZ? So I'll start with Sandy, seeing as you're doing holiday planning and things like that. So what are some of the biggest barriers that your clients face when they come to New Zealand and you're arranging a holiday?
So if I'm speaking for my clients, they have none, because I've already sorted that. But for me, in order to sort that, is probably accommodation. Is if I can't get the accommodation, I have to push their booking out until we can. So a lot of people that are traveling, my clients, the dates they travel are specific to when we can get the accommodation they need and the excursions we want them to go on booked. So I think that's probably the biggest barrier, is accommodation.
Okay. Yeah. Jezza, I'm sure you've got some thoughts here too.
Yeah, I'm with Sandy on that. Accommodation is a massive issue in New Zealand. The label accessible in New Zealand is not accessible. There's no consistency across the brand. Some businesses are doing amazing. Some are doing really, as accessible as like this beautiful thing they can put on a building, and there's nothing to stand by it. So accommodation is a major. The other thing is intercity transportation. It's a massive one, like getting from one place to another, even getting into Milford, Fiordland, these places, iconic places in New Zealand. It's a ball for a lot of visitors. Accessing small airports, getting into smaller planes. We have come up with ways of doing that for Milford, thank goodness. And then, of course, it's working with the bigger businesses, the yes people when you're in the room and then you go away and it never happens. You have changeover of people, you have changeover of staff, especially within corporation. And the lack of information, mainstream information on businesses. For me, that's the key, is information and businesses owning their product. If we do it on outside, platforms, then the business, they're not authentic because they're not owning that information. Because if they don't own the information, they don't know what the information is. They need to understand what that information is. It's fine of Sandy organising trips and Margaret organising trips and me working with businesses to make sure that they're organising trips, but they have to be authentic. And they have to put value on the research. The research is there, we know, and they need to put value to be authentic. When that authenticity comes in there, then that's when the change happens. And that's where in New Zealand we're extremely inconsistent.
Yeah. Just a quick shout out from someone that's written in. So it says, "Hi all, Dane Cross here from Australia. Just returned from a holiday in Queenstown, Milford Sound, and I need to give a shout out to Margaret and her team at Freedom Mobility. We hired a vehicle in Queenstown that needed to come from Christchurch. The team delivered and collected. It is that kind of service and flexibility that is needed in the industry." So I guess, yeah, touching on that, with disability, there needs to be a bit of flexibility with things change a lot. So yeah, just passing that on. A question that also come through: what are the most innovative or surprising accessibility solutions you've seen in the adventure sector? Jezza, have you seen what is the most sort of innovative and surprising accessibility solutions?
Well, Amond, I have to own up that I've created quite a few myself. So one big thing we're doing at the moment is we're bringing in adaptive e-bikes. So we've got them down now in Queenstown. We've got another one coming soon. It'll be in Christchurch. We've got one up here in Nelson, Tasman. So we're opening up the Cycleways cycle tours, which is massive. Cycle tourism in this country is huge. These are hand cycles. We've got downhill gravity quads like you have. Aim on, you've raced those ones. We've now got one up at Cable Bay as well. We have got glacial buggy chairs that we can get people out onto onto Fox Glacier and onto Tasman Glacier. These are guided tours where you can be on the glacier for 2-3 hours, go down into crevasses, the whole shebang. We have ski chairs that you can fly out, jump out of the chopper, get pushed around on top of the glacier. We have also got rafting harnesses that you can go on multi-day rafting trips, and that's people of all abilities. We've also got sea kayaking harnesses that we work with businesses where somebody that doesn't have balance or support can go on the sea kayaks. You name it, pack rafting, Queenstown, it's not a problem. It's if you work with the right businesses and you understand how it works. I'm just lucky enough to have that mindset where I've been in the industry for over 30 years, 50 this year, Amon. And it just, the idea of adaptation and the idea of lateral thinking when it comes to an adventure-based activity. Anybody can do an activity to their limit, if that makes sense. But that's the hard one, is understanding the limits of the individual or the potential of the activity to the individual. And that's where the educational side of thing has to come in with adventure-based businesses. And like Sandy said, not everybody wants to go class 5 rafting. Mum doesn't want to go class 5 rafting, but somebody my mum doesn't, but somebody might. An adventure could be just jumping in a helicopter and going for a flight. So it's very specific to the individual, but there should be opportunities for businesses if the possibility is there. And a lot of businesses in New Zealand, we have huge amounts.
Yeah, thanks, Jezza. I wish we had so much more time to answer heaps more questions. I think we've just run out, and we've got the minister coming on to pass over. So I will hand it over back to Sam. But thanks everyone. Great to see some faces again.
Thanks, cheers, Eamon, on the Doers panel. Finally, we'd like to welcome the third speaker, and that is the Honourable Louise Upston, who is the Minister for Tourism and Hospitality and the Minister for Disability Issues. So I'll hand over to her now.
Well, kia ora, Sam. Thanks for that. Great to be with you this morning, and caught the tail end of the discussion you were having, which was very interesting. And I want to just really acknowledge all of the speakers that have participated in the kōrero this morning. There's not many opportunities like this that are a great combination of two of my portfolios. So I was really excited about the opportunity to join you today. So my name is Louise Upston. My sign name is that, which indicates I got it because of my bright coloured blazers. I'm a Pākehā woman in my early 50s who would like to think I'm in my early 30s, but never mind. And as I said, one of the visuals that is kind of part of what I tend to do is wear blazers that are bright colours. Too much black in the capital is how I see it. So I think this is a really great conversation to look at the synergies between the disability portfolio and tourism and hospitality. 860,000 New Zealanders with disabilities. If you think about their families, those who support them, that means, and older New Zealanders, we do have, quite significant accessibility challenges across the country. And what I'm also trying to do in the tourism and hospitality portfolio is grow the number of international visitors to New Zealand. Hopefully many of you would have been involved in the New Zealand disability strategy. We had the draft out for consultation recently, and accessibility was one of the themes that ran across the whole strategy, because if you think about accessibility, it affects so many areas of our lives. And when we think about accessible tourism, it's about how do we ensure greater levels of inclusion, normality. So whether you are someone who wants to do a grade 4 rafting experience, or whether you're someone who wants to sit on the banks and watch someone else do the grade 4 rafting, we want to ensure and provide as many ways for people to participate and not have a lack of accessibility being the barrier. If we think about New Zealand and what we have on offer, we have extraordinary landscapes and amazing environments, but actually if people can't access them, then they're not much use. So if I think about cycleways, for example, you know, in the early development of some of the great rides, there were real efforts to make sure that chunks or good sections of them were accessible, which I think was a really important development. But there will always be more that we can do, but actually I'm of the view we must do it. So therefore it's how do we plan that out and ensure that you know, the attitudes in the previous, you know, panel can be just made easier. If you want to throw yourself at life, then we shouldn't be providing, and we shouldn't have barriers in the way. But actually there's a range of players in this. If we're to expand accessible tourism in New Zealand. So I think a big part of that is articulating our expectations. How do we make it clear what accessibility is across the tourism industry and for hospitality? Really, I think sharing and spreading great conversations about inclusion and how barriers have been busted, I think is really helpful, because there'll be some businesses that are making really great strides and others can learn from that. So how do we make sure we're sharing that information? And just like any area of travel and tourism, influencers are really important. And it's great to see the rise of disabled travellers who are spreading the word and spreading their experience. Of course, the danger or the risk to New Zealand is that they become negative experiences. So we do want to make sure that we are growing the opportunities. So promoting accessible tourism opportunities becomes really important. And how do we build that through our local, regional and national platforms? As I said, sharing good practice becomes really important, celebrating who's doing it well, but more importantly, using that to share with others so other providers can take that on board. And then really looking at collective action. And the Prime Minister often talks about government, business, iwi and community. So how do we all play our part, which means an even greater impact for greater accessible tourism. And I think today's discussion is a great example of collaboration, and I think it'll be really important to carry this on. What I also wanted to talk about is, you know, very realistically looking at the opportunity and the economic impact. So tourism is our second largest export for the year March 24. Tourism meant an economic impact of $44.4 billion. So it is significant. In the past, it's been number one, and I think we can get there again. And I think that being able to confidently promote accessible tourism would really kind of give us a strategic advantage. So I'm really keen to, you know, lay out a bit of a plan of what that might look like. We do know that accessible tourism, that market represents 25% of global tourism, and it's said to be growing 3 times faster than other segments, which I think is something that my observation, being the Minister for Tourism and Hospitality, is there are some areas that we've slipped back and we're perhaps not as competitive as other countries. And I see this accessible tourism is a bit of a double whammy. It's an opportunity that if we do it well, we can absolutely make it a competitive advantage. But the flip side is the risk is that we get left further behind as other countries are more proactive and more competitive. So globally, disabled people have a spending power of about 1.2 trillion New Zealand dollars. We know that accessible visitors tend to stay longer, spend more, and also they are more loyal to the destinations that meet their needs. And I think back to a previous life when I was involved with the 1996 World Rehabilitation Congress in Auckland. Thousands of international visitors with a wide range of disabilities. And part of my responsibility was accommodation and transport. And it became very, very clear to me and has left a lasting impression on two things. One, particularly accommodation providers really wanted to provide great facilities. And I remember visiting one facility in a part of Auckland, I won't name it, and they were so proud to show me their beautifully renovated, new, accessible rooms. And they were really proud of it. And it was quite devastating for me to then point out to them that the incline was fine in terms of the gradient, but then there was a lip or a step that would have been, I don't know, probably 4 inches, which then meant for someone using a wheelchair, it wasn't accessible. And I just remember the owner of the accommodation facility being absolutely devastated because they thought they were delivering a fantastic, accessible accommodation offering. So I think that also really kind of says to me that businesses want to do really well. Sometimes there's a gap in what they think they need to do and what they do. And that's where I think this collaboration is really important. So who's doing it well? How do we get more of it? And our ambition in terms of doubling the value of tourism exports is an ambitious one. And actually we won't achieve it unless we are attracting new groups of visitors to New Zealand and that we deliver amazing experiences to them that are tailored to what they want and what they need. And that includes a range of accessibility. So really keen on innovations, and that's part of the work in the Tourism Growth Roadmap is around visitor experience. What is it that we have now? What is it that we're going to need to ensure that New Zealand as a destination is not just fit for purpose now, but fit for the future? And it's really interesting because there's, an increasing trend of visitors wanting to get off the beaten track, to experience things they haven't experienced before. And so we need to be ready to be able to respond to that. So there's great examples around New Zealand. How do we amplify that? And it's also from an employment perspective. So another one of my hats is the Minister for Social Development and Employment. And I've seen great examples of disabled people being employed in tourism and hospitality. And I really want us to grow that. So I think that's another opportunity out of this work. So I'm encouraging Whaikaha and the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment to work together. But many of the ideas and solutions come from the community. And I think it would be really helpful to kind of feed those ideas through the insights, the experiences, so that we can reshape what the experiences are now and for the future. So thank you for allowing me to be part of your kōrero today. And I really look forward to the outcomes that you have today and learning about collectively how we can do an even better job to share our beautiful part of the world with other disabled travellers who might have accessibility needs that we can do a better job of delivering for. So thank you very much, and I really appreciate the time the opportunity to spend some time with you.
Awesome. Thank you, Louise. We really appreciate your time and attendance and insights, giving that sort of government perspective on things. Anyway, wrapping up sort of today's webinar, we're working to break down ableism and remove the barriers that prevent disabled people from fully participating in life. And to do this effectively, Access Matters needs to understand the impact of initiatives like Kōrero for Change. So we're just, in the chat right now, there's a short survey for the audience. We really appreciate you taking a couple minutes to fill that in for feedback. And then, panelists, speakers, and moderators, there will be a different survey link provided for you guys by email. Now I'd like to close this space with a karakia. Pouhihiri, Pourarama, Pou o te whakaaro, Pou o te tangata, Pou o te aroha, Te pou e here nei I a tātou. Muri ora ki a tātou. Haumi e, hui e, tai ki e.